It's the wake-up call with KB and Andy.
You wanted this, right? You wanted the real deal? That's what this is. Wake up. You're in the middle of it.
You better wake up and listen to what you're saying.
Which is a morning show. Wake up.
What the hell? Wake up, everyone.
All right, thanks for waking up with us on this Tuesday. KB and Andy, it's the wake-up call here on the Fan in Indianapolis. As always, broadcasting live from the DriveHubler.com studios. And fellas, there haven't been too many games this year where we've looked at the Pacers and thought, yuck, what a bad performance. And no doubt last night in Charlotte was one of them, and we'll talk about it. Rick Carlisle will join us in the 8 o'clock hour, so a lot of Pacers today. KB, a good morning to you, sir.
I think Rick will be in a good mood, right?
All the
finger's
questions
already on the dumb
all
button.
of the questions that I had that could be perceived as fun or funny or well-natured, I just went ahead and deleted them all this morning. Well, we'll just get into the nuts and bolts of what we saw last night.
I'll let you throw the icebreaker softball at Rick to lead things off here. Yeah, this is a bit of a gloomy Tuesday here. Unfortunately, I guess we'll just get out of the way because I know some people are asking about it. We had a last-minute cancellation with Adam Silver in the 9 o'clock hour. Hopefully, we can get him on later in the week, but some weather issues in the New York area for the commissioner. But again, hopefully have him on here in one of the next couple of days leading into the All-Star game. Yeah, it reminded me of November. It reminded me of playing to your competition last night. And really, Andy, just check all the boxes. Offense, bad. Defense, bad. Out-hustled. The rebounding numbers were very alarming. The bench was terrible. Just a really, really disappointing.
You covered it.
It's honestly a bit shocking the loss was only 9 points. When you consider all of that, certainly one of the worst losses of the season. And, try to kind of hint at this throughout this clunky nature to the last month, Andy. You're playing with fire. Like, if you look at the standings right now, if the playoffs started today, the Pacers would be in the play-in. They'd be in the play-in versus the Heat.
Yeah, good luck.
You don't want to see a one-game Miami series.
No, with Jimmy Butler.
You lose that, all of a sudden, you're playing for your season then, 2 nights later. And when you made the Siakam trade, everything got thrown out the window in terms of, well, you still got your first-round pick or, whatever. You can fall back on that. That's gone. So expectations inevitably rose with that. So, yeah, awful performance last night from the Pacers. We'll touch on that. A lot to get in. Rick Carlisle coming up at 8. Big hoops night here in the state. The number 4 team in the land. I kind of forgot Marquette was ranked 4th. Seems like everybody in the top 10 is losing, and Marquette is on a win streak. They actually have not lost since Butler last beat them. It'll be the rematch at Hinkle tonight at 6:30. I guess, should we do it right now to brighten some spirits?
I like it. I always like, in this first segment, when Kevin Bowen brings up Butler this early, he's got a little magic trick in his pocket. So go ahead, tell the people what you got.
Mark, let's go caller number 4 right now, 317-239-1074. A 4-pack tonight inside of Hinkle Fieldhouse.
It's a big game.
That is a 6:30 tip against the number 4 team in the land.
Is there a trivia question attached to this?
I think I was so just frustrated by last night and then a little bummed by the Adam Silver news. We just reward who calls in.
You did.
Hour.
He walked in bummed out, and then I was like,
my dauber was down.
Yeah, I was thinking, I'm going to let Mark be the one that gives him the bad news over Adam Silver. They are getting like feet of snow.
Yeah, I
apparently
did not realize that.
in the New York area. Oh yeah, like the big front that was actually south of us moved all the way up. So it's it's the normal. It's Pennsylvania. It's New York, New Jersey. They're all just being. I don't know if it's a nor'easter. Remember those?
Sure.
But it just missed us. Thank goodness. Not that I did anything yesterday, but we appreciate it.
Again, the other uplifting story from a local hoop standpoint would be what's happening in Terre Haute.
Finally.
And that is the Sycamores of Indiana State for the first time since Larry Bird in 79.
That's unbelievable.
They are ranked 23 and 24 in the respective polls. They are in action tonight. Our very own Brendan King,
yes.
He's actually called a half dozen Indiana State games this season for ESPN+. He'll be on the call tonight. He's going to join us a little bit later in the show. I feel like when you are a program like Indiana State, the fact that you just got that number next to you, I know it has little bearing on your NCAA tournament, resume. It's not like, oh, well, remember they were ranked in, mid-February. But that's just fun. Like, you're on the bottom ticker. People in obscure parts of the country now are like, oh, wow, Indiana State is ranked? I kind of forgot that school even exists. Like, cool. I love it. Well-deserved. Again, they continue to put together a really nice resume. Indiana State back in action tonight against Illinois State.
The Fighting JMVs. The
They're
fighting
JMVs.
JMVs tonight.
Shout out to my dad, an Indiana State grad as well.
Listen, let's go back to the Pacers for a second. Again, Rick Carlisle will join us
Our
at
positive
8
news
o'clock.
stops there.
I think it probably does. You know what killed me about this game? What killed me about this game, yes, they played just bad. I mean, it was just a poor performance, and you went through it, and you're right.
Charlotte stinks, by
and
the
after
way.
the game, Tyrese Halliburton said all the right things. Turner said all the right things. By the way, we might have Miles Turner at the NBA. We're going to be at the NBA crossover event on Friday. For NBA All-Star Weekend, as like you can tell, the excitement here in the city is building. Is really a couple days away into Thursday. All the events are going to be starting, but dude, I'm telling you, and I know there's other like times of the game you can look at this, but you're watching that game, KB, and there's like 4 minutes left in the game, and you're only down 3. I think that's what bothers me is as bad as you played, and you mentioned it, the score could have been much worse than 111 to 102.
Charlotte is not good.
Well, Charlotte,
let's make that abundantly clear.
And they made moves, and I know Buckner talked a lot about this during the game
Quinn
on the
acted
Bally's
like
broadcast.
They traded for LeBron and Steph.
It was Seth Curry instead. At one point, they had 88 points, and they mentioned this, Denary mentioned this during the broadcast, they had 88 points to the Hornets, 54 were from new players, and Bridges had a nice game and everything else, but you're right, they stink, and the mindset was bad. So the play was bad, the mindset was bad. This is now a couple games also. We've seen Carlisle, and we need to ask him this at 8 o'clock, KB, that we've seen him have to call an early timeout.
Yeah, 2 minutes in last night.
Whether it's defense or offense, guys not being locked in, he's calling the timeout, but what killed me is like 4 minutes to go, and you're only down 3. And at that point, it's like, as bad as you have played, okay, and it's been a disappointing game, if you lock in for 4 minutes here, you can just win this game. You can kind of steal this game. You can survive this game, and immediately, 4 minutes to go, they're down 3, and Bridges goes right to the bucket, walks in like Braden Smith did, quite frankly, against Indiana, and he gets an and one, and it's okay, it's whatever, and it's back up to 6, and at that point, is basically over. The last minute and a half, 2 minutes, almost running out the clock there in Charlotte, but that's what killed me. 4 minutes to go, you're down a possession, You've stunk it up, go win this game, and they didn't respond at all.
Yeah, I was thinking to myself, wow, they're about to escape, and you'll never talk about this game ever again. Like that sort of feeling to it, and yet, to your point, it didn't happen at all. Again, Charlotte stinks. It's the first time they've won back-to-back games
since November.
Since the Colts bye week. You guys want to remember when the Colts bye week was?
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
After Germany, folks.
Yeah.
Remember when the Colts played in Germany?
After the big Patriots game.
Oh, my God.
Does seem like another life ago.
It does. Again, look at Charlotte last night. When the Pacers have had, again, I tweeted out after the game, the Pacers have been clunky for the last month. Like, they've just had these such up and down Jekyll and Hyde nature, but in losses that we would label as disappointing in the last month, Andy, Jeremy Grant goes off for 39. Jalen Brunson goes off for 40. Steph Curry the other night has 42. No one for Charlotte sniffed the career performance last night. They were 29% from 3. They had 16 turnovers. This was not some out-of-body experience from the Hornets, yet in all of those facets, offensively, the Pacers don't sniff a number that you need to. Defensively, 65% allowed in the second half.
Grant Williams had 21 points.
Exactly. I mean, these are role glory.
Yeah, come on.
Davis Bertans is getting in off the bench for them. Like, I guess they traded for a former Thunder rookie. Mirtich, I don't even know how to say his last name. He was slicing and dicing the Pacers whenever he wanted to. That's what adds to it. And, you aren't in a position to have trap game mindsets. Like, the Knicks were missing a bunch of dudes the other night. Toronto coming up on Wednesday. Like, where's the trap? Look at the standings.
Right, you're a 7 seed right now.
Yeah, you're not in a position to be thinking trap-like games. And, Andy, these are the types of teams you're largely going to see the rest of the season. It's playing to the competition, which, sure, you have great wins over Milwaukee and Boston and Philly, et cetera, obviously the in-season tournament, but you also have now a handful of these losses that, come mid-April, it's really going to impact some things from a seeding standpoint. So, very ugly from the Pacers last night. Rick Carlisle joins us at 8. It'll be at Toronto coming up on Wednesday. That is a 7:30 tip. And that is it as they lead into the All-Star break.
Well, it's too bad, too. You had Cleveland lose last night. You had the Knicks lose. They're all upset how they lost. I guess there was controversy at the end of their game. Two other things, and I want you to think about this. We'll get to a morning check down here in a little bit, but I just want to put these in your mind, and we can talk about these as we go. The first would be, and I was listening yesterday to GM Chad Buchanan, who was on with JMV, and Buchanan, I mean, he was very honest, I think is the best way to say it. He was very honest, KB, that he said, listen, moving Buddy Hield, and I'm not making this a Buddy Hield conversation. You'll see where I'm going. He said, moving Buddy Hield, it didn't make us necessarily better this season. And I think that has been, one of the conversation pieces since they made that move last week. And after they made the move, we had the conversation the next day on that Friday, last Friday, to where I said, the Pacers have told us in every single way possible, at every single level of the organization, whether it be Buchanan, Rick Carlisle, players, anybody in the middle, that this is, you don't want to use the word rebuild, a retooling, whatever it is. They are building a team, and it's not yet over. And so they make that move, and Buchanan comes on yesterday with JMV and says the exact same thing. And it makes me wonder, if we are too far ahead of ourselves with this team. Does that make sense? That we have viewed this team, specifically you and I, KB, have viewed this team as a top 6 seed in the playoffs. And I have thought at times this season that they absolutely are. And then I'm thinking, hey, just beat the Orlando Magic and then Philly and the Embiid issues. And, right now the Knicks are going through, they lost a couple games in a row, but they're going through substantial injury issues with guys like OG Anunoby and Julius Randle. Guys are going to be out weeks on this team. And I just wonder sometimes, last night was so bad that I'm not sure it fits the mold. But overall, Are the Pacers going to, if they end up being a 7 seed here, an 8 seed, are they going to be able to sell us, hey guys, we were in the lottery last year. This is all still very new. We have a young team. Making the postseason is going to be, quote, good enough. It shows a substantial step in this franchise.
You got to get to a playoff series. You have to get to a playoff series, and frankly, I think you need to be somewhat competitive in that playoff series for me to sit here in late April and say, all right, that was a step in the right direction.
I guess I'm trying to find out if they would agree with you. That's what because every message is, well, we didn't really get better at the deadline with moving Buddy. Again, and, we're rebuilding. Last year, we were a top 10 pick. We were in the lottery.
My expectations at the start of the season were 5 or 6 seed and 45 wins. So, and that's before Siakam. That's before, anything else happened there. I do think that should be the expectation. And just living in the present of last night, Andy, that should not be acceptable. And again, these performances rise too often to, frankly, be a team that you feel consistent about come April. And I guess if you want to look glass half full at it, these types of teams won't be there. But again, there's no guarantee that you're going to be there. If the playoffs started today, Orlando's got the head-to-head on you. So they are in the playoffs. They are the 6th seed. You are the 7. You would be in the play-in. And these are things we're going to have to watch here down the stretch. Again, Rick Carlisle joining us at 8 o'clock. Shout out to Joel. Joel is our winner of the Butler 4-pack. Josh.
Good job, Josh.
Oh, I thought Joel. Thank you, Mark. Josh. Shout out to Josh. Marquette and Butler 3.5-point favorite.
It's a big game tonight.
Golden Eagles on that one. I continue to look at this Butler resume. Andy, 7 wins in quad 1 and quad 2. I think 4 of the 7 away from home. They almost have to faceplant to not make the postseason. And by the postseason, obviously, I mean the NCAA tournament.
Go ahead and mark that, Mark. Go ahead and mark that down. Even though I agree with you.
You are a studier of the bubble. You are a guy
I am a studier of the bubble. Yes. No, right
feel
now
like
they're
if there's
they're an
one
NCAA
metric
tournament
that
team.
stands above the rest. It's
Right.
who have you beaten and where have you beaten
And where
them.
do you beat? And road wins are
7
more valuable.
Quad 1 or Quad 2 wins.
Listen, Butler's
with
a tournament
over
team.
half
Yeah, they're a
on the
tournament
road.
team.
Again, they probably could use 1 or 2 more, and the beauty is they get those opportunities tonight and upcoming. But still, I feel very good about where they're at right now. We will give away another 4-pack coming up. They've got Creighton on Saturday. So, again, the big games continue for the Bulldogs. We'll do that here later in the week. Shout out to the Sycamores. They are ranked. We'll chat about that on today's show as well. Rick Carlisle at 8. Brendan King on the call for Indiana State's first game as a ranked team in 45 years. We will do that with him coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. Continue to give away our Dave Matthews tickets and Cluster Truck gift card. We'll do that here coming up on the pop quiz later. Good Tuesday morning to you. I'm Kevin Bowen. He's Andy Sweeney. Mark Dykton on the 1s and 2s. Thank you for tuning in to the Wake Up Call right here on 93.5, 107.5, The Fan.
The Ride with Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, March 11th and 12th.
Reminder, Rick Carlisle going to join us coming up at 8 o'clock. Let's get into the morning checkdown. 111-102, that's your final last night in Charlotte. Pacers fall on the road. They fall now to 30-25 on the season. If everything started today, playoff-wise, they would be in the play-in. They would be a 7 seed, so not good there. Rick Carlisle, post-game, unhappy.
Unfortunately, the process involves nights like this, and it's no fun. Most positive growth comes from failure, but we got to learn from it. We got to turn it into a positive somehow. And look, Toronto is going to be a beast of a game.
Yep, we'll see if they can do that Wednesday night in Toronto. Post game, Tyrese Halliburton unhappy as well.
Unfortunately,
we just didn't play up to our level, our expectation as a group. Like I said, we got to grow up, and we got to be better if we're serious about winning.
Well, I think the first possession of the game, Andy, I want to say 3 different Hornets beat the Pacers off the dribble. They get a layup, and I'm thinking, oh boy, this is one of these small ball lineup nights where Turner, was dominant early, but then too often the Pacers can't take advantage of that enough, and I think you saw that late in the game. I could not, of all the stats, and the stats are astonishing. Pacers 26% from 3, 62% from the foul line. I mean, that's IU basketball stuff. 16 out rebounded by 16. Only had 2 offensive rebounds all night. That is a season low. But the one that stands out to me more than any of the others, Charlotte in the second half on 2-point shots, 23 of 27. They missed 1 2-point shot in the final quarter.
It's unbelievable. It's an unbelievable stat. Their 2-point percentage is unbelievable. Because like you said in the first segment, it's not like they went out and made 17 threes.
No.
It's not like
29%
this was
from 3, 16 turnovers. That nobody for Charlotte had 40. This is no
Brandon Miller didn't go nuts.
In foul trouble.
Right.
This is no out of body experience by the Hornets whatsoever there. Just awful from the Pacers last night. As Rick Carlisle said there, 7:30 tomorrow, Toronto. That concludes the first chunk of the season.
I'm scared at 8 o'clock.
Poor Dougie McBuckets, too. He's 0 for 5.
Since
you're saying that trade didn't really work out? I'm shocked.
And Buddy Hield, have you seen the numbers he's put up so far?
I have. Yeah, we're going to do a buddy watch here pretty soon.
Tonight in Hinkle, we already gave away a 4-pack of tickets to Butler and Marquette. It is the number 4 ranked Golden Eagles. This is a rematch from a big Butler win in Milwaukee earlier this season. If you look at what has happened to these two teams since then, Marquette's won 7 straight. Butler, I think, has won 5 of 6, I believe. So these are 2 of the hotter teams right now, certainly in the Big East. Marquette's case, you'd probably say college basketball. So a 3.5-point underdog, the Bulldogs, in this one. Tonight is the annual Project 44 game, so honoring the life of Andrew Smith, driving awareness for bone marrow registry there. Another big one here for the Bulldogs. Again, it's an early tip from Hinkle. That is 6:30 for this.
Just other, we were laughing during the break. Kansas lost by 29 last night to Texas Tech. They scored 50 points last night. That was by almost 30 on the road.
I thought it was crazy that the 6th overall team in the country was like plus 200 in that game heading into it. So it's like, oh, that seems odd.
They're just not as good this season. They're not a deep team at all.
Butler beat Texas Tech, right? Earlier this year. We talk about some of these marquee wins on Butler's resume.
Texas Tech is 18-6 on the season, so I want to throw that one out there. And then Duke all over Wake Forest by 8, I should say, 77-69 there as well. Butler in action tonight at 6:30. We gave away 4 tickets earlier. Congratulations.
And the other local college basketball angle for tonight, the Sycamores, as a ranked team, 23 in one poll, 24 in the other. They are a big favorite, 18.5-point favorite against Illinois State. Again, Brendan King, who's called a lot of Indiana State games on the year. He's going to join us coming up a little bit later in the show.
Am I allowed 10 Cubs questions?
About the Sycamores. Brendan listed 6 different topics he's going to talk about. I think we'll focus on the Sycamores. I don't think
what are the 6? I kind of want to know the other ones.
Pitchers and catchers here for the Cubs.
I mean,
well, remember he helped us tape an interview.
Maybe we'll throw in a Butler question.
Okay, but he's going to Arizona soon, is he not?
I know. I thought he was
for pitchers and catchers.
Late February. For those unfamiliar, Brendan King also the play-by-play voice of the South Bend Cubs, the AA affiliate of the Chicago Cubs.
I always think Brennan, I haven't known him long. He's a good dresser as well. In sports radio, that can be a rare thing,
it's
around here.
For dressing in sports radio
what I'm
here.
saying. He had a nice,
Brendan King is a great human.
Yeah, he had a nice little coat and everything last time we saw him. Cannot wait to talk to him. So
usually
he's
just
on,
say I have a good hoodie on today.
Yeah,
It passes the
So
bar.
he's on the call tonight then?
He is on the ESPN
Oh,
Plus.
that's awesome. Good for
Plus
him.
Call. Matt Wren, I believe, the color analyst. Again, I think this is game number 7 he's done of Indiana State. So he's seen the Sycamores a lot this year. For those unfamiliar, we'll get a little bit more into that. Random Colts note of the day. I do want to focus on the Colts here coming up in a bit, but Joe Haeg, former Colts offensive lineman, announced his retirement yesterday. Haeg actually started 30-some games for him. One of the final draft picks in the Ryan Grigson era, so he hung it up. But on the other side, 1 week from today, it's been a slow news cycle for the Colts here, as expected, into the offseason. But we are starting to get some important dates on the calendar. The first one of that comes, again, a week from today. Where will the news be on Michael Pitman Jr.? What would plan B be if all of a sudden they let Michael Pittman Jr. walk in free agency? We'll chat about that coming up next as the free agency window starts to inch closer and the franchise tag window begins coming up next Tuesday. We'll do that on the other side. Rick Carlisle joins us in 30.
The Pacers head to the All-Star break in Toronto.
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, back at it on this Tuesday. KB and Andy, we're the Wake Up Call, hanging out with you in the DriveHubler.com studios. Reminder, coming up, top of the hour, Rick Carlisle will join us, Pacers head coach. Not a good one last night. We'll see what kind of mood everyone's in at 8 o'clock this hit that mic at 8 o'clock this morning. And so we'll we'll dive into that. And then we were slated to have Adam Silver at about 9:30, NBA commissioner. He's going to reschedule. They have a bad storm going through the New York area. Several, I think, feet of snow are expected. So we'll hopefully catch up with him down the road. I just wanted to throw this out if we can, and we'll get to some Colts conversation here in just a second, that I don't want to sound like I'm picking on this guy. I don't want to sound that way. I know he is a vital piece to the puzzle for the Indiana Pacers, and on top of it, I know he missed a couple games. I know that Benedict Mathurin has been under the weather. He's been dealing with some illness. Quinn Buckner yesterday really talked about that on the broadcast, so I don't know how much that has bothered him, but we have now, I'm all about data points and those sorts of things. We've won 3 games now since the Buddy Hield trade. That is a big moment in the Pacers season. So you go back, you look at early season, then you look at the Halliburton injury, and that's kind of like a timetable, and you look at Pascal Siakam and him being added to the team several weeks ago, and that's another data point and how things line up. And one of the conversations around Buddy Hield being moved last Thursday, KB, was, some guys are going to have to step up. There's going to be an opportunity for some other guys. And Benedict Mathurin, he's one of those other guys, and there's so much predicated in this organization on him not being just a good player or a bench player, but being a really good player. He's played this is in 3 games, 62 minutes since Buddy left. 15 points, 8 rebounds, and 2 assists. He didn't score last night. So, again, I don't know if it's the effects of the illness. I don't know if he's just on a little bit I don't want to say a slump right now. I'm not sure what it would be. But, a lot is going to be predicated on this team taking the next step is going to be on Benedict Mathurin. Let's just say it. And you could move Buddy because some other guys would step up. And last night, Ben Shepherd, 3 minutes, doesn't come in until the fourth quarter. They're kind of looking for something there. And then Mathurin, kind of a no-show last night. And those things are worth talking about because they didn't want to move him, and I can understand why. He needs to step up. And in the next few games after the All-Star break, it's going to be something that we're going to watch, I would imagine.
Yeah, I don't even think there was kind of a no-show. I thought it was a no-show for Mathurin last night. Lethargic, just not his usual. Usually you have to rein him in. You have to kind of, right, throttle it down, Ben. And I thought last night it was no, you got to throttle it up a little bit. Quinn, it seemed like Quinn almost went a step further in describing how sick he might still be, which I don't think I recalled him on the injury report leading into last night there. And there's no way you say that without people just being like, oh, that's an excuse for him. So I'm just relaying what Quinn Buckner on the road with the Pacers team obviously said about Mathurin. When he got pulled there, I forget if it was late. I think it was late third. I kept on looking for him on the bench. I didn't see him on the bench for the next few minutes. So did he go back to the locker room for a bit? Then he eventually came back to the bench. But then to your point, Shepherd took, I assume, Doug McDermott's minutes in the second half. I don't think Doug played in the second half. Shepherd came in just briefly there, and that was it. So the bench unit, just terrible last night. Even T.J. McConnell wasn't anywhere near, what we're used to with him. He had a trio of turnovers there.
They were minus 17 with T.J. McConnell on the floor. I don't always love that number, but it does stick out when you look at the box score.
Bench night, I think, is very fair to say. So ugly from the Pacers all around. No matter, I don't look at one facet of the game and think, oh, Pacers did a nice job here in this area. So cannot wait to chat with Rick Carlisle with a hint of sarcasm there coming up in 20
I have a buddy who lives in Charlotte. He's a Pacer fan. He's from Indy. He got pretty good tickets to that game. And I was just smiling. I was like, how much you spend on those tickets to watch the Pacers?
I'm hoping he went to the previous game against Charlotte.
Every time they've been to Charlotte, he's been there. But I'm like, boy, you splurged on some good tickets. Those are the Jay Query tickets. I like that.
A little Colts news that we want to get to. Coming up a week from today, Andy, that begins a 2-week window for teams to apply the franchise tag if they would like to. Now, this is a storyline that we have not needed to put any sort of attention to in recent years. The Colts have had virtually zero realistic franchise tag candidates. We've talked about it before. Pat McAfee in 2013 is the last franchise tag the Colts have given out.
Which, by the way, is amazing. That's the last time they gave out the tag and that it went to a punter.
Now, again, the reason why McAfee got it, and just to remind people on what the tag is, it is the average of the 5 largest salaries of the prior year at that position. I think the other angle is like it's 120% of the prior year's salary for that player. Like Saquon Barkley, for example. If the Giants were to tag him again, they want to make sure that he's making more money than he did last year with that tag. And so basically the Colts have had no really quality free agent that you would want to use the tag on. And to be fair, especially in the Chris Ballard era, they've re-signed a lot of their own. They've gotten ahead of the tag. Now all of a sudden you're in a position with Pitman where it's a tool and you could use it. And again, if you use it, Pittman's on this team for next season. Point blank. He's on this team for next season. The projected numbers are just over $20 million for the 1-year franchise tag. That would give you, I think it's about a 5 or 6 month window then to try and get a long-term deal done, which is ideally what the thought process was when the franchise tag was created. It is interesting to note, I think I saw a stat the other day, teams have used the tag 23 times in the last 3 years around the league, and less than half have gotten a long-term deal done. So just because you use it doesn't mean you get that deal done. But again, 1 week from today, that begins a 2-week window to where the Colts can use the franchise tag. If they don't use it by March 5th, then that means they'll have just 1 more week to try and get a deal done with Michael Pittman Jr., or else he would hit free agency. That is Wednesday, March 13th.
You don't believe that we'll have any sort of news by Wednesday, March 13th, do you? I mean, you don't expect a 4-year,
some news in the next 3 weeks, because the 2-week window, you either use the tag or you don't use the tag. So that will be the first news item.
I mean, long-term contract news. Do we expect that? Because I am almost expecting that this goes to the franchise.
If you look around the league, it would probably be easy to say no, but I do think there is a lot of mutual liking from the Colts with Michael Pittman Jr., and Chris Ballard has never shied away from public remarks positively about Michael Pittman. Same thing with Shane Steichen, even. And, Pittman doesn't go to the extreme that Ballard does in sharing those comments there. So I don't know if I'm there, to be honest with you. I will continue to say I fully expect Michael Pittman Jr. It would be a surprise if he's not on this team in 2024. How does that look? That is a fair question. And, if you look into some of these free agency projections, again, the franchise tag number is not official yet, but right around $21 million, a little bit less. I think some people feel like Pittman deserves a little bit of a higher annual value if you map out a long-term deal, whatever that is, $23 million, something around there. Is that a huge sticking point in these negotiations? But I bring this up because we haven't had a lot of Colts news items here in the first month of the offseason. We're about to start to get into that. Really, the franchise tag window starts that. The combine, of course, in 2 weeks. But I threw out a question on Twitter the other day, Andy, of if the Colts let Michael Pittman Jr. walk, what is plan B? What is the other option on that? I want to throw a couple of these tweets that I got from our listening audience, and feel free to react to any of them. Nathaniel goes, they have to draft a wide receiver on day 1 or day 2, and then would need to sign and trade for one more. Either that is bringing Pittman back or sign and trade for Mike Evans, T. Higgins, or A.J. Brown. Again, asking what plan B would be. Randy says with the 15th pick, the Colts would draft a wideout. Ballard has no intention of paying a wideout $23 million per year. He's never valued the position. Shane Steichen banged on the table to get Jonathan Taylor done. Does he do that likewise here? This from Brooks. If they let Pittman Jr. walk, Ballard should be fired immediately. The guy is exactly what this team needs, a very good receiver, but also tough and plays when dinged up. To let him walk would be foolish. And last one, this is pretty simple from Lars, asking what a plan B would be.
Lars.
He says, there is none. Okay. Do you see a realistic plan B if you were to let Michael Pittman Jr. walk? Because I do think there is some validity to listening to some of those. Ballard's never valued wide at that level. You could easily argue he's never had a wideout in-house particular that meets the criteria that he would hold. But still, what do you think is a realistic plan B, if anything?
Okay, so there's a guy that I love, and he's under contract through next season, okay? And he just played in the Super Bowl, and he makes an okay amount of money. And he's going to be making a ton more money, and we'll see what the Niners have went all in, and that's Brandon Aiyuk. To me, he would be...
But he's not a free agent.
He's not a free agent. The first guy there, talked about trading for A.J. Brown and all that. I mean, that's not going to happen. In fact, even trading for a big-time wide receiver like that, I just don't feel like is going to happen either. So that sets us up with, well, what other kind of guys are out there? Well, I love Mike Evans, but Mike Evans is... 30 years old. And when you talk about, does he match the profile of what a young team with a young quarterback needs? I'm not sure he does. And I love Mike Evans. The only reason I bring up Brandon Aiyuk is last week or the week before, oh goodness, what's his first name? Is it Brett Spielberger? Help me. Who's on with JMV?
Brad, maybe?
Yeah, I think that's Brad. And I actually cut the sound. I should find it. This is a week or two ago. And they talked about Brandon Aiyuk of, hey, this is a guy that potentially, you could see some sort of a trade. You could see, do the Niners, this could be a year, but do the Niners, what are they going to do in rewarding him with a contract? But I don't think any of the backup options are options that Colts fans are going to care for. Now, the question that I have that would be twofold is, I agree with the Ballard may not want to pay $23, $24 million to a wide receiver. Understandable. But what other option does he have as well? When you start talking about options, when we look around the NFL, I'm not sure. And on top of it, there just haven't been a litany of guys that have demanded that type of money. You mentioned it a second ago. I think you're spot on. I also view it as if Pittman, because I think the franchise tag here is something that if they use it, it's not like a bad guy thing for Ballard. Now, does it harm the relationship? We just saw Jonathan Taylor have a pretty harmed relationship, and when the money was right, he signed the contract, right? So Pittman, I always think, well, there's going to be bad blood. It's like Barkley's pissed off at the New York Giants. If the Giants put a 4-year deal that had $81 million guaranteed, or, that number's obviously too high, that he would sign that deal. So the relationship aspect here is interesting as well. My biggest takeaway on all the Pittman stuff is this. He is one guy. Jonathan Taylor was not this. Taylor was liked, but in my view is not this. Pittman is one guy that if you let him walk, fans are going to be upset. And it's going to be an overwhelming majority. With the Jonathan Taylor stuff, KB, fans came out of the woodwork. He's a diva. He's a running back. Last year he was injured. When these guys get older, the value of the running back position became a big talking point. That's not the case at wide receiver, and it's not the case with Michael Pittman. And then the other thing, the last thing I would say is the tweet of, move up and grab somebody. Nate Atkins had a piece in the Star today, I don't know if you saw it, that, even if you have to move up a couple spots to get Brock Bowers, you do it. I have brought those things up. Chris Ballard doesn't move up in the draft. You've said that on the air quite a bit. So those are my thoughts around Michael Pittman. He'll be back next year. I tend to think they franchise him and they work something out. But regardless, he's going to be back next year, and the cap number would be about $21.7 million if he were to be tagged.
Go back to a Ballard comment during the end of the season presser when asked specifically about the wideout market.
It definitely made me think, and Bowen, every time I freaking read or listen to Bowen, it's like a constant freaking barrage of wideouts.
I think we're approaching the anniversary of that, Mark. That was a combine press conference.
Should I get a cake?
Is that 2 years ago then?
Oh, no, I think it was
it last year?
I think it was pre-COVID.
Yeah. Oh, it's pre-COVID.
Yeah.
That was the last event we were at, and then the world shut down.
I was going to say, I've been standing on the table for wideouts for quite some time. But to Ballard, again, a lot of people, he never pays for the premium positions. He never pays for wideout. He had an interesting comment last month at that season-ending presser. He made the gas price analogy in regards to wideout. You want to drive your car? You're going to have to pay that price. Like, that, you want a wideout? You're going to have to pay that price. It was one of the first times I kind of walked away thinking, all right, he's kind of got no choice. He's a bit handcuffed.
He has no choice with Michael Pittman.
Again, to me, when you have Anthony Richardson, you have the wideout core that you do, Michael Pittman Jr. is a number one on your depth chart. To me, there's no realistic plan B. Unless you're going out and trading for Justin Jefferson or trading for whatever, whoever you want to throw out there that is clearly above Michael Pittman Jr., realistically, there's no one like that. I don't put Mike Evans, Calvin Ridley, and T. Higgins and these other free agent wideouts, even if they hit the open market, I don't put them in that category. And I would make the argument, and finances would be difficult to make this happen, I'd make the argument the plan B needs to be, honestly, an additional name at that position.
That's the conversation.
That, to
Not
me,
just
is the
Pittman.
bigger question. You brought up Brandon Aiyuk. Well, it's Brandon Aiyuk and Deebo Samuel, along with George Kittle. I go back, and I've brought this up numerous times. Look at Miami and look at Philadelphia and both of those teams and how their wideout core has been built. Philadelphia spent a very high draft pick on Devontae Smith. Miami spent a very high draft pick on Jalen Waddle. And yet, when they had two extremely accomplished collegiate quarterbacks in Tua and Jalen Hurts, they still sat there and thought, nope, what we have at wideout is not enough. We need to go above and beyond. We need to make something more happen there. What does Miami do? They trade for Tyreek Hill. What does Philadelphia do? They trade for A.J. Brown. That's how I view the Colts situation. If you want to play out the analogy, okay, whatever, Pittman might be considered your version of Waddle, your version of Devontae Smith. And I say that just because those teams drafted those respective players. I'm not saying Pittman Jr. is the exact type of player that those guys are, but you can't stop there with your building at the wide receiver position. So I threw it out there of, okay, what would plan B be, just out of curiosity? And does anyone have like something that makes me pause and say, okay, I can see where you're coming from on that? And I didn't get anywhere with anything of realistic nature to it. Again, to me, you got to stack another one on top of it. How does that look? Does that happen this offseason? It might not. But you need to do it early on in the Anthony Richardson rookie contract because, again, whether it's Tua in Miami, whether it's Hurts in Philly, go back to Stephon Diggs being traded to Buffalo for Josh Allen. A lot of these teams did those sorts of things when these quarterbacks were on their rookie deals.
Is Diggs a guy that interests you at all? He's 31. He's evaporated a little bit in that Buffalo offense.
Too old,
probably.
And but again, there's a diva element to every wideout, but I'd wonder if he's a little bit too much of a like demanding the win now and just maybe not as open-minded to growing with what you have right here.
You're spot on that the conversation isn't Pittman. Pittman, the bill is the bill. The gas price is the gas price. The loaf of bread price is the loaf of bread price. That's how it's viewed. It's who else can you find around it? And right now they need 2, 3, 4 more weapons around Anthony Richardson.
And the beauty is, in this draft and future drafts, wideout is a deep spot. I mean, that continues to be how the college game has evolved. So certainly the the Colts are going to have to hit on that at some point unless they make a substantial trade. All right, speaking of Pacers, on the other side, Rick Carlisle joins us next.
93.5 and 107.5 The Fan. Your home. It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
All right, 8 o'clock, hanging out with you here on the Fan, hour number 2, broadcasting live from the DriveHubler.com studios. KB and Andy, wake up call here in Indianapolis. Busy show today. Reminder, rescheduling NBA Commissioner Adam Silver. Hope to have him join us later in the week. All the NBA festivities. They have a nasty storm right now going through the Northeast, New Jersey, New York area, Pennsylvania, Philly, all that's being pounded pretty hard there. So we'll catch up with him hopefully later in the week. Brendan King will join us coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. Indiana State in the top 25 for the first time since Larry Bird. All right, a lot of Pacers conversation today. Let's keep that going. You know it's 8 o'clock here on this Tuesday. Rick Carlisle, Pacers head coach, joining us here on the Payless Liquors hotline. Coach, good morning. I guess let's start with this. I know you're not happy, I'm sure, about the game last night. In one of the clips we had, and we played it earlier, you did mention learning something, getting something positive from a bad moment. Last night was a bad moment. What do you think your team can learn from that loss last night in Charlotte?
Can you hear me?
Yeah, can you hear us?
Yeah, I can. Okay. Good.
Yeah, you sound
before
good.
we get started, I want to, if I may, send out special best wishes to Ashley Preston, who's the daughter of our VP of Public Relations, Mike Preston. She's having ACL surgery as we speak. She got an ACL injury a couple of weeks ago playing with her club team, and she's a great young soccer player at Rebuff, and it's a scary time, but she's going to do great, and she's an ass kicker, and just want to send out love and best wishes to her as she goes through this. So anyway, yeah. So the game last night was tough, not good, didn't play well, and yeah, we got to make it a learning experience. Simply a situation where a team had just made a pretty significant move, picked up 5 new players, got pretty juiced up 2 nights earlier in a game at their place against Memphis. They broke a pretty long losing streak in that one, and then in our game, they were able to just hang around and outlast us, and so it was disappointing. Nobody liked the way the whole game went, and so it's just got to be a lesson learned, and the importance of just laser focus, finding a way at a challenging time of the year with All-Star break around the corner.
Coach, you took a timeout. I think it was less than 2 minutes into the game last night. What specifically had you feeling the need to do that?
We had what I thought was a glaringly bad defensive mistake, and so you just want to correct something like that absolutely immediately, and try to get the club refocused. And it was a frustrating game. I mean, at one point, I think we had a 7-point lead in the first quarter and had like 3 or 4 chances to make it a 9-point lead. And it just, had a couple of just uncharacteristic, untimely turnovers, a couple of shots that needed to be better shots. And, one of the turnovers turned into a 3 for them, and then we weren't able to score the next time, and then they scored again, or I think it was another 3, and then all of a sudden it's a 1-point game, and we lost the first quarter by a point. So I think it's just more of the same. It's just situationally, it's kind of like field position in football. We just did not do our job as well as we needed to.
He's Rick Carlisle. One final game for the All-Star break coming up tomorrow night in Toronto, 7:30 tip for the Pacers against the Raptors. Coach, I'd say more so than any other team in the league, you guys have some great wins over the top of the league, and then also have several losses against teams that would be in the basement of the league. What do you make of such a stark contrast in many, big wins, but also several losses against teams that, again, will be in the lottery?
I think it speaks to the nature of the league now. It's just that the parity is greater than it's ever been. Even with the teams that have 8 or 10 wins or 12 wins or whatever Charlotte has, and it's a compete league, and even the teams that aren't good are competing well. Look at the Memphis game we had a couple of weeks ago. I mean, they're without 3 of their main guys. No Morant, no Bane at the time. No Adams, or he may have just been traded or something like that. And it was a barn burner of a game, and they make you play every single possession. And we simply had to outlast them. It's a one possession clutch game, and so everything's on a fine line. And so you've got to have your total wits about you the entire time, and you've got to be focused, and you've got to have a major killer instinct, and the basics of the game are absolutely critical. And so, we came up short last night, and so we paid a price.
Rick Carlisle with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. You mentioned killer instinct. I know you mentioned that a couple times after the game as well. And that focus is, like, how do you get that? Is that just playing more? Is this group being together more and more? Is that how you achieve that? How do you achieve that and grill that into the guys as a head coach?
Got to be an attitude that you develop. And look, there's no excuses. I mean, this is a thing where our team's got to learn a lesson. And look at Toronto last night. They were a big favorite against San Antonio at home, and San Antonio, who's had a very rough year, wins and losses now, is putting some wins together. Toronto, I haven't watched the game yet. I'll watch it this morning, but they had probably a similar type game, and so they paid a price. They lost by 22 points at home or 23 points at home to one of the bottom teams in the entire league. So, we're coming back in here tomorrow to Toronto with Pascal, and he's coming home, and he's a former high-level support player on a championship team and a starter and all that kind of stuff. And, this is going to be a barn burner type game, and we're going to have to be ready.
Again, Rick Carlisle's with us here. Pacers lose last night in Charlotte, as he said, off to Toronto for tomorrow night, final game before the week-long All-Star break for the Pacers. Coach, it's our first conversation with you since the trade deadline and what transpired. There are reports out there that Buddy Hield asked to be traded. Can you confirm that?
No, I can't. Whatever Chad Buchanan, when he had his media availability that night after the game, whatever he said, and I don't know the exact transcript, that's the position of the team. And so, Buddy was a terrific player for us for a couple of years. Unfortunately, in life and in the NBA, everything changes and everything comes to an end eventually. And so, he had to move on, and we wish him well.
Obviously, they're different players, but how can you compare losing Buddy to what you hope Doug McDermott brings to you guys?
They are different, but the similarities are they're both terrific players off movement. They both shoot the ball extremely well. Doug's only been here 2 games, and so he's getting his feet wet pretty quickly. But I do believe he can help us, and we get another opportunity for him tomorrow.
Rick Carlisle joins us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. Tomorrow night, last game in Toronto, last game before the NBA All-Star break. So a lot of conversation there. I wanted to just ask you, what's the health? Is Benedict Mathurin feeling well? The reason I asked that, Quinn Buckner brought it up on the Bally's broadcast quite a bit last night. And in the 3 games since Buddy was shipped away, just 15 points, a couple assists, and 8 rebounds in those 3 games. How is he feeling? And is this, how much more of an opportunity with Buddy gone is this for Mathurin to get out there and to learn and to show what he can do?
Well, he was sick, I don't know, the other week. I'm trying to remember when this was. He missed 2 games. And I really want to make sure I got this right. He missed 2 games. We started him against Sacramento because he was fresh. They were waiting on us, I think, coming out of New York. And so we started him in that game. Then he got sick for a game or a game or 2, and then came back. He banged his leg in the game at New York 3 nights ago, and I didn't think he looked right last night physically, and so we'll see where he is today. I mean, kid hates missing games. Always says he's okay, but if he's not right, maybe he shouldn't be out there. So we'll take a closer look at him today. But I'm concerned about his health.
Rick Carlisle is with us here on the Payless Liquors Hotline. One final game for the All-Star break in Toronto coming up tomorrow night. Coach, obviously rest and recovery is a big part of what the next week will be about. From a staff standpoint, when you guys reconvene early next week, what will be some of the focus points as you get ready for a stretch run with you guys right in the thick of trying to earn, I would assume, one of those top 6 spots and avoid the play-in?
Well, health has got to be the first thing. Jalen Smith will not play tomorrow in Toronto. He has an issue with his back that just is one of those things that therapy helps, but there's no substitute for rest and what he needs from Mother Nature in that instance. So we're hoping that this period of a few days before the break and then 6 days during the break will present a situation where he'll be much better and be able to play coming out of the break. If not, he may miss an additional game or 2 or 3. I mean, we'll have to see. But that's something, Tyrese has been dealing with, his return to play. As you've noticed, his minutes have increased gradually, and he's doing better. But if you look at his statistics, since coming back, his averages are down, and so this is something that just doesn't simply happen overnight. So the hope is that once we get through All-Star break and come back and all that kind of stuff, he'll be feeling, absolutely 100%, and that will be very important.
Coach, can you tell the offensive, or can you tell the staff there at the All-Star game that you would prefer Halliburton to only play a certain amount of minutes in the game? Is that a silly thing for me to even ask you? What kind of conversations, have you had? It's going to be a big week for him. He's going to be very active, not totally resting maybe like some of the other guys on your roster.
Well, I understand. And that's one of the things that we hope, doesn't go crazy. I mean, it's a time of year where there'll be a lot of promotional opportunities. This is where agents make their wages and stuff like that. Tyrese is a smart guy, and he understands how important he is to us, and so I have implicit trust that he'll handle everything fine. And when you're a starter in the All-Star game, I mean that's a big freaking deal, man.
Sure.
We hope that this is going to be a yearly thing, a perennial thing. But a lot of guys that are great players never get a chance to start in the All-Star game. So it's an amazing honor for him and well earned and well deserved.
Rick Carlisle with us, Pacers head coach, on the Payless Liquors hotline here on the Fan on this Tuesday. All right, I had to ask you this, and I appreciate the patience. So I don't know how much you saw of the Super Bowl, Coach, but the 49ers coach, Kyle Shanahan's been beat up the last day and a half or so because some of his players admitted they did not know the new rule for the overtime rule in the Super Bowl. They learned that actually as the overtime was getting ready to start. We know the rule book in the NBA is also thick. How do you go about making sure you and your staff are up to date on every rule, and then the players as well? Are you the one that describes them? Do you bring in someone from the NBA from the outside with any rule changes? How do you guys do it at the NBA level? I ask because obviously the Super Bowl, it's such a big conversation from that game.
Well, every NBA team has a rules liaison, and so our rules liaison is Mike Weiner on my staff, and so it's his duty to collect any information on rule changes, year to year as they happen. They have Zooms, they have all kinds of different things. He brings that information to me and the staff, and we go from there. But I'm not going to get into a thing about what happened in the Super Bowl. I mean, Kyle Shanahan's a great coach. I mean, to have any opinion at all about that is none of my business. I have too great a respect for him as a coach and what he's done.
Coach, we'll end with this. We know in your conversation with us last week, you mentioned, and I think I've got the town right, Ogdensburg. Is that correct? Where you're headed to see your parents after tomorrow night's game?
Yes, that's right. Ogdensburg, New York. It's a border town in northern New York State. There's a bridge to Canada in Ogdensburg, and you go across the bridge. You pay $3 or $4 or $5 or $6, whatever it is now, and if you have your passport, you can go over and do do whatever you want over there. It's really an interesting thing to have growing up, just the fact that you can so readily go to Canada. So, as I think I mentioned last week, my brother's going to come up for the game, and then we'll take an early train Thursday morning from Toronto to Brockville, New York, which is about 15 minutes from Ogdensburg, Brockville, Ontario, I should say, and so I'll get to see my parents for a better part of a day and a half. Then it's on to Charlottesville.
Well, safe travels to that. Safe travels to see Abby at UVA and enjoy that. I did want to end with this. Again, All-Star Weekend obviously here in our city. When your colleagues reach out to you and say, all right, give us a spot to go to, maybe a restaurant or two, do you give them any recommendations of note you'd like to share?
Well, I have some obvious ones. I mean, obviously St. Elmo's is kind of world famous, world renowned. My favorite restaurant in Carmel is Savor up at Monon in Maine, and there's a lot of great ones. I mean, one of my other hangouts ever since I came here as an assistant coach in 1997 is Iaria's Italian restaurant up on College Avenue. Okay. So those are kind of my recommendations. I know the people in all those places, and those are great. But Indy is one of the great convention cities in all the world. I mean, nobody does it quite like Indianapolis. Everything from the basketball court in the airport, to just the welcoming spirit. It's an exciting time, and I'm sure it's going to be an amazing few days during All-Star Weekend.
Coach, enjoy the family time. Got to be pretty cool to see not only your brother tonight, or tomorrow night, but obviously your parents, and then hang out with Abby for a few days. And as always, we appreciate the conversations, and good luck tomorrow night, rounding out the first half.
Okay, thanks, guys. Take care.
Rick Carlisle right there on the Payless Liquors hotline.
Stuff.
He's got me hungry now for Italian after the
by the way,
drop.
by the way, I'm looking at it right now.
Oh, it's unbelievable.
I brought it up immediately.
It is a staple right there.
Because, listen, I'm new. I need to get people to tweet me restaurant
That
recommendations.
Is a must. Yeah, I mean, I lived in Fountain Square for a couple of years.
There you go.
That was a dangerous spot for me. I believe, Fat Tuesday, if you would like
I'm
to
seeing some
participate in that.
some lasagna being brought out of the oven right now. It is making me hungry.
The Matherin comments.
Like Garfield over there.
Interesting. There's no way to say it without sounding like an excuse, but I watched him last night, and I thought the dude just doesn't look right.
He doesn't look like himself.
He doesn't look right. Again, Quinn, and you prefaced it with your question to Rick of, Quinn had mentioned the illness, and then I thought physically, it's just like, gosh, he's not as usual. That dude is reckless. That dude attacks with no fear of the body, and I just didn't see it to the full level. So maybe a little bit more of explanation on that.
I'm not feeling good about him playing tomorrow night as well.
No.
And Jalen Smith is already going to be out. Dougie Buckets is new to the team. It's just, boy, they gotta reach down. They gotta win. I mean, this is one of those games
you
where
gotta dig deep tomorrow night.
Siakam and Halliburton need to go out there, put up big games. They need to win this game tomorrow night.
Siakam's emotions, who knows what those will be like, and being back in Toronto, it's a little thing, but does Matherin participate Friday night in the skills competition? I know the skills competition is, at times it's can be a little bit lax, but still, that's a question. He's in the Rising Stars game, of course, on Friday night.
Sure is.
It is a little bit more of a higher intensity game. So I just think they're going to enter the break with a lot of questions. They are going to enter the break with a lot of questions. I think we have put the Halliburton health minutes restriction. That I think we can move it to the side, but where you're at with your starting lineup, you seem to be settled there. Your bench unit has got to get cohesive because they are obviously going to be critical for you moving forward. What is McDermott's exact role? Matherin handling the brunt of that second unit from a scoring standpoint. The health of Jalen Smith. I mean, back spasms for a big dude, nothing you want to play around with. He obviously, his status right now very much up in the air. So some huge questions for this team, and it's a team right now, if you look at the standings, they're in a play-in game. They would not be one of the top 6 seeds, tied with Orlando, and Orlando's already won the head-to-head tiebreaker against them.
I'm just, to me, injuries aside, like you said, I am interested in, Carlisle having to instill in how you instill. I thought he gave a pretty good answer, that killer instinct / focus. And I think you saw that focus issue a couple times when he's had to call. I think it was offensively in the Knicks game. He had to call the timeout the first Knicks game, and then he had to call a timeout a couple minutes into the game last night, and it was because of the defensive side of the ball. I find that interesting. Do coaches, I said I followed Charlie Strong for a couple years, and KB, he always called it fake juice. I wonder how much a professional coach like Carlisle can say, man, I'm not liking what I'm seeing in the prep or the warm-up or right before the game. And then the killer instinct, that's what I led with. What bothered me the most is, as bad as you've played, okay, as stinky as the game has been, there's 4 minutes to go and you're down 3. Go win the game. Go win 4 minutes of basketball, and you crawl out of Charlotte with the win, and we come in here and say you played a D+, C- game, but you dug deep, and Siakam stepped up, or Halliburton or Nesmith, and you go win the game, and we just kind of forget about it like you mentioned at 7:30, and we just kind of move on. But the opposite happened. They didn't have the focus. They didn't have the killer instinct, and Bridges goes in and gets an and one. You make it a one-possession game, and you allow Charlotte to go right in and score at the rim. Those are the things that Carlisle's talking about, and those are the next step things that they're going to just need other guys other than Tyrese Halliburton to be able to do.
Days of the plucky underdog Pacers are gone.
No, it's done.
And now it's easy for me to sit here from the cheap seats and say, but you've got to define a standard and play to that standard regardless of your opponent. And again, they've had some great wins. It'd be a wild NCAA tournament resume if you were evaluating the Pacers right now. Oh, my, look at the quad 1 and quad 2
they
wins.
have some quad 4 wins or losses.
But they got some quad 4 losses
they do.
that are ugly. And, that bites you in an 82-game season to where you get there and you look at the records and, okay, are they out of the play-in? All of that stuff is going to matter. And these are the types of teams they will play down the stretch. There's no more Milwaukee. There's no more Boston. There's no more Philly. You've gotten through the brunt of your upper echelon Eastern Conference schedule. Now it's take care of business against a lot of these teams that, again, I think what's so frustrating about last night, Bridges didn't have 40. Brandon Miller was saddled with foul trouble. He didn't go off for 35. You just simply let a very balanced Charlotte team particularly dominate in the second half offensively. What I say earlier, 23 of 27 on 2-point shots in the second half. 23 of 27.
And they missed one in the fourth quarter, you said? Wasn't that the stat you gave too?
That is incredible.
It is.
Absolutely incredible. And there's a lot of that in the box score from last night. Charlotte was under 30% from three. They were 16 turnovers. And the Pacers shot it terrible. I mean, awful from the foul line, awful from three. They got owned on the glass. Just a really, really poor performance last night from the Pacers there. Again, tomorrow night, 7:30 tip. A little bit later in Toronto, Pascal Siakam return game. Bruce Brown seeing his former team as well. You brought up that Kyle Shanahan question. I do want to spin that in the Shane Steichen direction.
Okay.
On the other side, because I do think there's an element from Sunday night that we saw that reminded me of what Shane Steichen deals with as a head coach, and I do think you can apply that to the Colts.
Before we get to a check down, I probably should have prefaced it. I wasn't asking him to crush Shanahan. It's the main storyline from the Super Bowl. Are the players admitting that they did not know the rules? And so
the 49ers.
The 49ers. And so there are always rule changes, maybe not so much as that's a substantial change, right? In the
NBA
NFL,
is different.
that is a
it's not
substantial
like you're
change.
Elam Ending in overtime or whatever.
Exactly, but the players aren't going to know. The coaches have to tell them. Somebody has to tell them. That's what I was getting at with that is, the process of if they change 2 or 3 things or the refs are really going to be looking at this thing or that thing. Remember college basketball did a lot of that a few years ago, KB? This is back when Notre Dame was riding high with Mike Bray. They're worried about hand
they just got
checking.
a big win over Virginia Tech on Saturday.
Hand checking.
I thought about storming the floor.
Who they got next?
Georgia Tech tomorrow night.
Oh, that's a stinky game.
At home.
Oh, that's a stinky one.
Didn't Georgia Tech beat UNC?
Oh, they just lost to Louisville.
Speaking of optimistic college basketball chatter, let's lead off with the Sycamores here.
All right, you go ahead.
On the Morning Checkdown.
The Morning Checkdown. Brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum March 11th and 12th.
They're partying in Paradise, the Sycamores of Indiana State. For the first time since 1979, they are ranked, both the AP and the coaches poll, 23 and 24 respectively. The Indiana State Sycamores back in action tonight against Illinois State. They are a hefty favorite, 18.5 points in this one. 7 o'clock tip on ESPN Plus. Our very own Brendan King will be on the call of that. He has been on the call for several Indiana State games this season. We're going to have him join us here coming up in the 9 o'clock hour. For those curious about Adam Silver today, we were supposed to have him in the 9 o'clock hour. Some weather issues in New York, though, has forced an adjustment in his morning schedule. So hoping to have him here before we get to the All-Star game this week.
Yeah, Butler basketball back in action as well. Butler and Marquette. Did you see the line to this game, by the way?
I saw it opened at 3.5.
It's up to 4.5 now.
Okay, the Golden Eagles favorite.
Yeah. Marquette has won 7 games in a row.
Their last
Marquette.
loss was Butler.
The only thing I will say is they haven't beat a tournament team in that 7-game stretch. St. John's, who I don't think is a tournament team, they beat them twice. They beat DePaul, Seton Hall, Villanova, and obviously Georgetown is pretty bad this year with the rebuild there. So that'd be the only thing I would say. They have 7 wins in a row. That's nice, but it's been against, kind of the mid to bottom level of the Big East.
4 on the road, though.
I know.
6:30 tip from Hinkle. If you missed it earlier, we gave away a 4-pack of tickets. We'll do one for the Creighton game coming up. That is a Saturday game for Butler. We'll do that here later in the week. All right, we do have to double back and go to what happened last night in Charlotte. We've defined the ugliness of that one. Again, every single level to it. Rick Carlisle, we asked him about that timeout 2 minutes into the game. Andy, first possession. Charlotte beats Indiana off the dribble, I think 3 or 4 different guys. They finally get a layup at the rim. I'm thinking this is going to be the small ball lineup night of the young, long wings that just simply give Pacers fits on that end. That's exactly what happened. But still, it was everything. Poor shooting for Indiana. Could not handle the glass. A season low. 2 offensive rebounds in that one. The bench was terrible. Just a really poor night. Doug McDermott still has yet to hit a shot here with the Pacers. Couple went in and out last night.
I didn't feel bad for him. He did have, 3 shots that basically hit every part of the rim.
Honestly, the highlight from last night, and I'm reaching here, okay?
The Neesmith dunk.
Oh, I forgot about the Neesmith dunk. Okay, the first half highlight.
Okay, first half highlight.
Kristen Airy dropping Swifty to describe a Tyrese Halliburton scoop shot off the glass. Now,
I missed
Kristen
that.
Airy does not strike me as this individual.
Okay.
Do you think someone in the Denary family said,
Yes.
Chris, can you get the word Swifty into your broadcast tonight?
I think in Kristen Airy's world, there have been Swifties.
He defines class.
Yeah.
He defines professionalism. He is such a man of integrity. He does not strike me as someone that would stoop to that level, but when he said it,
stoop to that level.
Well, I mean that goes against broadcasting 101 there.
Man, I don't know.
You know the All-Star break, you can make a friendly wager. I can get that in the broadcast.
You gotta lighten it up.
Do you think he did that, or is that just organic vocab that happened to creep into his head?
It's not organic vocab because. No, I would imagine he watched a Super Bowl, and those he watched it with, perhaps, I don't want to just label it as females, but maybe females in his life, females in his life, perhaps like the Swiftie angle, and so it's pop culture. I'm all about pop culture. I don't need 100% professionalism in my broadcast. Good God, the man has to do 82 games in the in-season tournament. By the way, Cluster Truck just arrived.
Shout out to Evan.
Evan, you want to hop on the mic and tell us what we got here? You got to go. Here we go.
Evan,
let's go. Grab the microphone.
We need to brighten spirits today. Tell people how they can get some great food on Fat Tuesday from Cluster Truck. This looks outstanding, Andy Sweeney.
I got the burrito this time. The breakfast burrito.
Mac and
I think
cheese.
so, at least, if I remember correctly.
Two
Go ahead.
lazy breakfast burritos.
Evan,
Parmesan crusted mac and cheese.
Oh, there you go.
So excited about that. Okay, so we're giving away the $25 gift card. We're doing that all week long again here on the Pop Quiz. For those unfamiliar with Cluster Truck, explain.
Yeah, so we are a delivery kitchen. Delivery focused. We do offer pickup. We deliver everywhere from Fountain Square all the way up through Carmel. Free delivery, and your food is never cooked until the driver's on the way to the kitchen. So everything arrives to you hot and fresh. Never any sitting around waiting under heat lamps, nothing like that.
We got churros, too.
Yeah, I did throw in some churros.
Oh, look at this.
Okay, so when you delivered last Tuesday, it was very different. I know you talked to JMV about this. JMV got fish and rice and broccoli, and we were stuffing our face with breakfast burritos.
I had chips and queso at 8:45 in the morning.
Yeah, now I am more on your guys' level. I definitely like the tots, the burritos.
Oh, yeah. Let me give you...
But it is a wide range, to be fair.
Very wide range.
Anything you may want. I know you got to go, but just quickly. So we were out with some neighbors on a little pub crawl. Okay, we were at Kismetic. Do you know where that is?
Oh,
okay.
Yeah, that's a brewery partner of ours.
And they have your stuff up all over. And so we got it. I'm telling you, it ain't no joke. I mean, that food shows up. It is hot. The food, no, it is.
It's the truth. No, it's the truth.
You say that, and I know that's how you advertise the business, but it is absolutely true. Mm-hmm. I mean, I crushed a pizza.
Absolutely.
I crushed almost the entire pizza.
Blake Lively hot from Sunday night, I think, if we're going to go back to yesterday. Okay, the Fan is our promo code as well. That's 25% off.
Correct. 25% off, 25 or more.
So if you don't call in and get on the pop quiz for that gift card there, the Fan is the promo code. 25% off, $25 or more. Evan, we needed brightened spirits here on this Tuesday morning. Thank you for providing that.
I heard you guys talking about how hungry you are. I'm happy to help.
You are doing that to the nth degree here. Andy Sweeney, the only other item I had here, I did see the Pacers announced yesterday, still a few tickets left for the Celebrity All-Star Game. Rising Stars Friday night. I know some people have asked about what they can do or what events they can attend from All-Star Weekend. If that interests you at all, Friday night over Gamebridge. You've got that.
Yeah, I remember last week us listing the celebrities and sounding old as old as possible. Who's that?
So I did that game with Maddie, and she also looked. No, she was dumbfounded as well. So I'm not that far off.
So you're calling her ancient like us, basically. You're roping her. Now there was one where I was like, "Who's AJ McClain? Dude, that's the guy with the Backstreet Boys."
There's been times I thought that Blake Lively is a boy before. So I'm not going to act like I am up to date in the pop culture scene. I would say in the last 6 months, I'm like, that's Blake Lively. Very attractive. Congrats to Ryan Reynolds.
Look at Mark Dighton look at you right now. He's looking at you like a disappointed parent.
Swifty by Kristen Airy last night. We're going to have him on and see if he did that planned or if that was just strictly off the top of the dome. All right, Shane Steichen, what can he learn from the Super Bowl on Sunday night? Touch on that next. Brendan King, calling the Sycamores, joins us at 9.
Let Bill Estes put you behind the... It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, appreciate Cluster Truck coming in. We're filling our gullets right now. I need to take a picture of this and send it to JMV. No steamed rice today. And if you want broccoli, you can get it, but not here on the Wake Up Call.
Not for the fish order there.
Yeah. Well, we should, that should probably be a little bit healthier. New Year's resolution that went immediately down the drain. I'm just kidding.
I'll start that tomorrow.
Yeah, we'll start that tomorrow.
$25 gift card, by the way, to Cluster Truck, along with a Dave Matthews pair of tickets for the pop quiz coming up in
pretty good.
An hour.
Yeah, about an hour. So, reminder, because of the snow in the Northeast, no Adam Silver today, NBA commissioner. We were slated to have him at about 9:30 this morning. We do hope to get him later this week. He'll obviously be in town with all the festivities as well. And then the NBA crossover event stuff, we are going to be out there on Friday broadcasting live. So I might have some fun guests coming your way as well. 2 quick notes on the Super Bowl as we get into some NFL here. KB has a question for Shane Steichen, so we'll dive into that. Not ESPN. The NFL announcing the most watched Super Bowl. No shock here. Across all platforms, a little over 123 mil. We're watching it. All the streaming stuff has set all sorts of records. So everyone happy there with the NFL and CBS. And then Zaire Franklin. Did you see what he tweeted yesterday, KB?
No, but I saw him honored at the Super Bowl for being the Walter Payton Man of the Year for the Colts.
He was there. He had the Indianapolis Colt gear on and everything else. He tweeted out yesterday at 1 p.m. Vegas won.
Ooh, oh boy. My hand is raised. Been there before, Zaire.
So I'm sure Zaire has a much different experience than we do in Vegas, but
Patrick Mahomes drinking the Coors Light in the club is not what I had on the old. That's not how I expect most quarterbacks to celebrate their Super Bowl win, but good for Mr. Mahomes.
You have to take it slow sometimes. So I love that from Zaire Franklin. Vegas won, brother. We've all been there at one time or another. All right, give me the Shane Steichen stuff.
I think what do you learn from Sunday night? And it might be low hanging fruit, but the reactions to the 49ers players and the Chiefs players. In knowing the overtime rules, I've been pretty struck by that. And I bring up Steichen because Andy Reid and Kyle Shanahan are 2 head coaches that take on the play calling duties. A lot is on their plate. And, we just heard Rick Carlisle say, he delegates Mike Weiner, one of their assistants, to being the rule guy. And, Shane Steichen, I know, does an exercise, as probably most NFL teams, every Friday. They drum up a handful of plays, situations that are very unique that have happened in the previous week in the NFL, and they show their team those plays. They want them to say, okay, this isn't, 3rd and 4 and whatever, 2 minutes ago in the first quarter. This is a end of half situation, end of game situation. This is why they elected to run out the clock like this, or they opted for a safety here. Just little things that you might feel like never arise in a game, but when they do, is your team prepared for that? And I look at Sunday night and hear Chris Jones being like, oh, yeah, we knew we were going to kick off, and we knew if we scored a touchdown, we would go for 2. Like, it wouldn't have even gotten to a 3rd possession.
Right.
The Chiefs weren't going to allow that. Either they were going to win or lose with the 2-point conversion.
And that's seemingly all that Kyle Shanahan cared about is the 3rd possession of the overtime period. Yeah.
Now, part of me want to think, well, if you get a 4th and 12 from the 35-yard line, are you really going to go for it, or are you going to kick the field goal there? But still, you hear the 49ers players, they had no idea, or at least the vast majority of them did not know the overtime rules. So think about the 2-minute media timeout, 3-minute media timeout from regulation to overtime. While the Chiefs were sitting there on their Microsoft Surfaces preparing for the next possession, there's an element on the 49ers sideline of looking up at the Jumbotron being like, oh, the rules are different? Wait, what did Bill Vinovich just say? We're starting a new game? And now word of mouth on that sideline is explaining to guys what the rules are. And if that creeps into on field, maybe you take an angle on 3rd and 8 that's a little different. And you're saying, no, we could play for the field goal here. We just need to simply hold them, and we're going to be fine in that moment. That's a very slippery slope to get in. So, again, a credit to Andy Reid for whatever. He had somebody on his staff or him alerting the players, whether it's back in training camp or throughout the week, when we get to the playoffs, if the game goes into overtime, this is our plan of attack, so you're ready for it. The 49ers were not. If it impacts them in any way, that could be the difference. And I think if you're Shane Steichen, you watch that happen, and it's another reminder of, I need to make sure my team is abreast of all this stuff. Even though a lot is on my plate as the play caller and the head coach, you cannot have those situations arise where all the emotion and all the pressure is rising in these big moments, and you don't know how the hell overtime goes.
Well, then you throw something, that's a big deal, and it's not like it's just an offensive thing. It's very much a both sides of the football.
It might be even more defense.
You absolutely could. I have been surprised. I am surprised because I respect Kyle Shanahan quite a bit. I think he's a good coach. I am stunned that this is A, that it's the case that they did not know, and B, that the players said it out loud. right? I mean, they admitted their ignorance,
Right.
the team's ignorance, the coaching staff, the players, and everything else. So yeah, I'm stunned that is, and make no mistake about it, KB. It's besides the Chiefs dynasty, it's the number one storyline from the Super Bowl. Is that right there? Is the 49ers looking like buffoons? And I'm surprised by it.
For example, late in that first overtime period, the time almost ran out, and I think there were some people that are like, wait, why are they taking up so much time? And it's like, no. The only reason that time is really on the clock is to change sides of the field. And for an indoor stadium, it doesn't really matter. But if you're outdoors, obviously, there's some weather at play. It would have mattered. But I bring that up to say this. Vinovich starts overtime saying, and he's the head ref, saying, okay, all challenges will come from the booth, and we're starting a new game. So if you're Brock Purdy and you run out there with 3 timeouts, those timeouts, you can use them for any sort of late play clock situation.
Oh, sure.
If you don't you don't need to save timeouts for the end of the overtime period to try and preserve time. You don't need to save timeouts to potentially challenge plays. None of that. You can hey, if that play clock gets down to 4 and all of a sudden Kansas City and Spagnuolo have done something differently pre-snap, boom, take the timeout and move on. If you watch the 3rd and 4, the final San Francisco play before they settle for the field goal, it is a clear pass protection bust. Chris Jones is free. If you go back and watch that play, San Francisco's interior 3 offensive linemen, they all kind of like go to the left and block really just one Chiefs defender. If there's one Chiefs defender you need to block,
block him.
It's Chris Jones.
Yeah.
And Brandon Aiyuk
he's wide open. He's wide open.
Jerry
right.
Sneed has slipped and fell. Aiyuk has no one within 10, 15 yards of him. And if that is a moment there where all of a sudden, pre-snap, Purdy's like, wait, I think they're on the same page, but I'm not 100% sure. Boom, fire off that timeout, because really timeouts didn't matter from a actual time standpoint of preserving, the final minute to go in overtime, because whatever, you'd give up possession at the end of OT. So it might seem like a little thing, but I think it matters. And to me, it's a great moment for Shane Steichen on his couch to sit there and say, all right, boom, these are the things we need to go over. These are the things we need to make sure our team knows. So when you get in the biggest moment with all the pressure and your head is just going a million miles per hour and it's spinning and the crowd noise and you're thinking, oh my gosh, we're in the overtime of the Super Bowl, you know what the hell's going on.
Well, the last thing you want in those situations is to add an unknown factor and to add more anxiety to what is already going on, like you said, when you're in overtime in the Super Bowl. I did see yesterday Tiki Barber, who does the games on CBS, he was waxing poetically about how he doesn't like that the clock there doesn't mean anything because the clock adds pressure, right? And he talked about, now this is for a different time, but I had not heard that conversation because I'm fine with it.
So he thinks at the end of the period the possession should go to the other team?
Well, I don't know what he thinks. Yeah, I mean, well, someone's got to win the game,
right.
Tiki.
It can't end in a tie.
It can't end 20-20, okay? It's the damn Super Bowl or the playoffs. So I'm interested if they'll tinker with it. I think, big picture for me, and these are easy things with Shane Steichen, but it's just, it's so... If you believe in, hey, when it came down to it, Patrick Mahomes showed his greatness, whereas, Brock Purdy had chances to show that greatness and he did not. It goes back to so very much the quarterback position, right? Making it without, having the rest of the team lift up the quarterback, which is kind of what the Niners have done. Even though I'm not a Brock Purdy hater, that's one thing that we just didn't get too much data because of the injuries to Richardson. And then the other thing I would say is just defense matters, man. I mean, you have seen the dynasty of the Patriots. You have seen now the dynasty of the Chiefs say, we have issues on the offensive side of the football. We need to be able to win games by our defense winning some games. And so I'm not saying that Shane Steichen isn't attached to the defense, even though he is the play caller on the offensive side of the ball. But, we've talked about Gus Bradley. Those sorts of things matter. And I know this year the Colts had some games where the offense or the defense won them games. You think of Carolina, you think of New England. I know those are bad teams, but the defense was able to do that. Well, I'm Shane Steichen. I'm watching Andy Reid win a Super Bowl. Andy Reid is a genius on the offensive side of the football. But you know what won them the game? You know what got them to the playoffs and Super Bowl? Their defense being at an elite level. And I think that's worth remembering, when you go into an offseason and wonder, hey, is the best we can do Gus Bradley?
In this state, we will watch 2 NCAA tournament teams tonight on the hardwood and an upcoming news item for the Colts, arguably their biggest one this offseason. We'll explain more on the other side.
Back in my day,
It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Little Michael Pitman conversation coming your way. We'll talk some Indiana State basketball coming up at the top of the 9 o'clock hour. I don't know if you saw this stat or not, KB. Tyrese Halliburton already in his young career here in the NBA, 4,000 points, 2,000 assists before turning the age of 24. Do you want me to read you who else is on this list? Some pretty good names besides Halliburton, okay? Luka is on the list. Russell Westbrook, LeBron, Kevin Johnson, John Wall, Mike Bibby, Magic Johnson, Chris Paul, Isaiah Thomas, Trae Young, Stephon Marbury, and Tony Parker. That's not too bad of a list to be on. Again, 4,000 points, over 2,000 assists.
Bibby after eating cluster truck right here.
Yes, I do.
8:30 in the morning here.
Oh, it's great, man. This burrito's fantastic.
Outstanding. Pacers back in action tomorrow night. Again, 7:30 tip. North of the border. We talked about Michael Pittman Jr. a lot earlier in the show, but I wanted to remind our audience, Andy, 1 week from today, that's when a 2-week window opens for the franchise tag. So for 2 weeks, from February 20th to March 5th, teams can apply the franchise tag to a player. What does that mean? If the Colts give Michael Pittman Jr. the franchise tag, he is under contract for the 2024 season. He's here for a year. Typically, with the projections, it looks like that tag would run a little bit north of $20 million per year.
About 21.7, I think, is the number I saw this morning. Yes.
And if you look at kind of what the market value would call for a player like Pittman, some people tend to think the average would be a little bit north of that. So if you were to give him a 4-year deal, for example, you'd be looking at whatever, $22, $23 million annually. So the tag can do a lot of things. It can help you keep a player before free agency, let you have a nice 4 or 5 month window to work out a long-term deal. It could keep the player just for 1 year, and then they hit that open market. So those are some of the avenues the Colts can explore with the tag. Again, to remind people, the tag is an average of the 5 largest salaries from the prior year at that player's position, or 120% of the prior year's salary of that player, whichever's greater. Well, Pittman's on a rookie deal, so obviously the first one is greater. The average of the 5 largest salaries in that prior year from the player's specific position. That's why wideout you see so high compared to other ones there. So it is a tool the Colts can use. They have not used it in over a decade. 2-week window. March 5th is the deadline. February 20th is when it starts. Free agency begins March 13th. So we're starting to get to the calendar where things are going to pick up, and we could get an answer. There's a lot of questions the Colts have on free agency.
Oh, sure.
Continue to get into
Stewart,
that over the next few weeks. Kenny Moore, Julian Blackmon, Grover Stewart. Hell, their punter is a free agent, Rigoberto Sanchez. Tyquan Lewis had a really nice year. Gardner Minshew, Zach Moss. I mean, again, it is a lengthy list, but the Pittman answer could very well come here, or there's some answer we're going to get is probably the best way to put it.
The next step in the process of what do they do here?
They have to have some sort of action by March 5th.
If you're a Colts player, maybe you do want to be franchise tag. Look what happened to Pat McAfee.
Well, I think
he's a star in this country because he got franchise tag.
That's the thing.
Don't tell that to Pat. He absolutely hated it.
People may say, and tell me if I'm wrong here. People may say, "Hey, well, what about Grover Stewart? You know, you could franchise him." But then you start looking at his value compared to the top interior defensive linemen and those top contracts. The average of those. Aaron Donald's making $32 million a year. Jeffrey Simons $23.5. Quinn Williams $24. You can go through it. The Giants are paying Dexter Lawrence $23, nearly $23. So it makes more sense to play Pittman $21 because he's probably worth $23 than overpay at other positions.
I think Kenny Moore or Grover Stewart getting the franchise tag would be too much of an overpay.
I totally agree.
They are just kind of on the verge. Not there in that group, but they're a little bit behind. Some age for Grover. Again, Kenny, just still not at that exact Pro Bowl level. All right, on the other side, a man that's called a whole lot of Indiana State basketball this season. The Sycamores are ranked. He'll be on the call tonight. He's our very own Brendan King. He joins us next.
If you're talking about It's the Wake Up Call with KB and Andy on 93.5 and 107.5. The Fan.
Yeah, hour number 3, 9 o'clock hour. KB and Andy, it's the Wake Up Call, hanging out with you, broadcasting live from the DriveHubler.com studios. Reminder, if you missed any of Rick Carlisle, Pacers head coach, joined us an hour ago. Check that out. Podcast Center at 107.5thefan.com. KB, I guess the newsworthy items from that would be Jalen Smith will not be playing tonight. So, boy, Jalen, he's one of the guys that needs the rest of the All-Star break. And they're kind of worried about Mathurin. I mean, Carlisle did sound worried about, he had been ill.
He didn't look right last night.
He didn't look right last night, so he said maybe he won't play. So we'll see what happens there as well. Pacers and Raptors coming up tomorrow night right here on the Fan. All right, there's been some good stories and some bad stories in local college basketball. And one of the great stories is what is going on at Indiana State. Indiana State in action tonight against Illinois State, and a man who will be on the call there for ESPN Plus. His name is Brendan King, and he joins us on the Payless Liquors hotline. BK, good morning, man. How are you?
What's up, fellas? Listen, I've never been sandwiched between a Hall of Fame basketball coach and the commish, so I'll do my best to take you to Silver.
Well, you still aren't.
Yeah. We got some bad news for you.
Silver had to cancel last second. Yeah, but it was funny. No, it was. It would have been funny, yes, if you were sandwiched.
It's like the ISTEP test, Brendan. Like, what doesn't belong here? Rick Carlisle, Adam Silver, Brendan King. Nothing against you, but...
No. I actually was going to send you a meme. It's like the 3 dragons, 2 looking serious, 1 looking dumb. I'm the dumb one, and they're the serious ones. But, hey, maybe another time.
Well, now that, we hope to have Silver on later in the week. Now we'll just keep you the entire hour, so get ready. We're going to pepper you with Indiana State and Butler questions, I guess, along the way. Brendan King joining us here on the show. So Indiana State back in the top 25 since Larry Bird. I'm sure this will be a conversation piece. They're huge favorites tonight, 18, 19-point favorites over Illinois State. But you got to think, hey, we're in the top 25. We got to make sure, we don't blow this and we don't mess this up immediately. I guess if Illinois State were to keep this close tonight, how would they do so, Brendan?
Well, that's the thing, right, Andy? Because when you get a lot of times this happens when a team gets to the number 1 spot in the country, and unfortunately it's happened to Purdue a couple times where you get to that point and you lose right away. So, yeah, I mean, you got to prove it for sure. The thing with Illinois State, their head coach, Ryan Peden, who was a Butler assistant when I was going to school at Butler, and he's a great dude, but they're dealing with all kinds of injury problems. Their leading scorer, Darius Burford, has been out. Jordan Davis, who is actually Johnny Davis's twin, he's been out too. He transferred in from Wisconsin. So they're playing a couple freshmen, but they just lost a heartbreaker on the road at Southern Illinois where they were down 19. They get back within 3 or 4, and they lose that game by 3. So, yeah, I think it's just a matter of everybody in the Indiana State lineup, guys, is shooting 30% plus from deep, including their center, Robbie Avila, who I'm sure we'll talk about. The college Jokic is what he's been called. And, even a guy like Jason Kent, who is known more as an inside player and plays inside the three-point line, he's shooting 32% from 3. So should be a fun environment in the Holman Center. We're expecting a sellout. And, again, like you said, Andy, just got to take care of business if you're a Sycamore fan.
Yeah, watching that game against Drake, Brendan, Kent was outstanding on the glass in that one there. He's kind of one of those, maybe smaller, mid-major, big guys, if you even want to label him as that. Again, Brendan King is with us. You certainly hear him on these airwaves, the play-by-play man for the South Bend Cubs. He's called several Indiana State games this year. He'll be on the call tonight, ESPN Plus. Brendan and Matt Wren have got you from Paradise. Okay, Brendan, for our audience out there that is yet to see an Indiana State game, yet to see the Sycamores play, just describe stylistically what you watch when you see the Sycamores and Josh Ertz.
It's pretty. First of all, I mean, getting to watch their practices is pretty cool, and I'm going to head out a little early, watch a little shoot-around action, too. It's a pretty mix, Kev, of outside shooting and then something that you just don't see a lot anymore. It's almost a point-forward type effect because they'll let a guy like Isaiah Swope, former Castle High School man, started at Southern Indiana. Actually, last year, Swope dropped 28 against Indiana State, beat them, and transferred in this season. And then a guy like Ryan Conwell, who started Pike and, went to South Florida first. And he's averaging just over 15 a game now, just had 28 big-time points in their prior game. But as much as the outside shooting is prevalent for ISU guys, it's Avila running the point almost from a center spot, and he's doing spinoramas at the elbow. He's dropping off to cuts for Kent. And, Kevin, that was the guy you brought up earlier, Jason Kent, of in that Michigan State game earlier this season, which was one of their few losses. Robbie Hummel, called Jason Kent arguably a top 3 cutter in the country. The Missouri Valley is full of teams that build their offenses around cutting. It's a little old school, and it's cool to watch. So if you've never watched an Indiana State game, Jason Kent, he can shoot from a corner, but he is great at cutting at the baseline, and it's usually Avila that's finding him. And the stat of that night from that Michigan State game, plays that result in a Jason Kent cut, this is like major Ken Palm. I don't even know how you find this.
We're nerding out right here.
Yeah, plays that result in a Jason Kent cut have an 80% field goal percentage. So
wow.
I would go to that often if I'm Josh Schertz.
Yeah,
that's some advanced analytics right there. I like that.
Yeah. That is quite
I like
the stat
that.
crew. Yeah, I mean, when you say beautiful, I know it might sound a little stupid, but there are some people that don't love the college basketball game because they don't feel like it is the greatest brand of basketball. But you watch Indiana State, it is beautiful basketball in how you watch them, their ability to cut, how they space the floor. It's really fun to watch. Again, Brendan King is with us here. Obviously, you hear him on these airways. He's got the call tonight, Indiana State and Illinois State from Terre Haute. Was this expected at all? I mean, a ranking, Brendan, it's probably way too premature to have said that. But, I guess what was the thought preseason, Mo-Val? Because, I mean, there's part of me, I'm a sucker for the sentimental story. I mean, that town was robbed of a super regional last spring. I know you know that story pretty well with, the scheduling issues and the logistical nightmare they had, and they had to go play at TCU when their baseball team advanced to the super regional. So I love the story, but I guess, did we think this was a possibility even in the preseason?
I couldn't even fathom it. And I mean, guys, I'm super lucky because this opportunity to even start doing some games for them came from their baseball team. That was the story of campus. And it still is, right? I mean, they're a NCAA tournament College World Series capable college baseball team with Mitch Hanna's running the show, and they are expecting themselves internally to be back there. But yeah, I mean, I've done 6 or 7 of these games, Kevin, and many of them have been with Matt Wren, of course, an Indiana State Hall of Famer. And yeah, I'm going to go see Matt a little bit later. That's a guy that played in 2 NCAA tournaments, but he was never part of a top 25 roster, which is crazy to say. Again, this is the first game for Indiana State ranked since 1979, as you said, Andy, with Larry Bird. So I don't think you can even fathom that. I mean, their second game of the year was down at Alabama. They got blitzed by 22. Now, to be fair, Avila didn't play. But then they just started winning. They went to their Feast Week tournament in Vegas, and be it they didn't play crazy competition. It wasn't anything like Atlantis or Maui or whatever, but they won 3 in a row there. They got off to a good start in non-conference play. They lost at Michigan State. They beat Ball State in that Indy Classic, right? So they just kind of got off on the right foot. They seem really bought into Schertz, and I think that's another conversation in itself, guys. Like, depending on where they go and how they do, especially next month, Josh Schertz could be a pretty hot commodity.
Sure,
in the coaching
without
world.
question.
Now, that's still to be told, right? I mean, you got to get there. You probably got to win a few games. But hey, if I'm a team in the Big Ten and I'm struggling, or I don't know, if you're a bottom tier Big East team, I mean, you see what Indiana State's doing right now offensively. You're like, I want a piece of that, right?
Right now, bracketology, this is just Joe Lenardi. Now, he has him as the automatic qualifier. He has him as an 11 seed playing the 6th seed in Kentucky. that'd be a juicy matchup. We even had the conversation if they could get to the 8-9.
That would be awesome if they beat Kentucky.
Oh, that would be awesome. By the way, Kentucky's lost 3 straight in Rupp Arena for the first time since 1966.
Josh Schertz to Lexington, calling it now, right?
You're waiting to drop that one in this interview, weren't you?
You better believe it. The other thing about Matt Wren is, and I'm trying to find the exact year, I went to the NCAA tournament in Memphis, Brendan, when it was at the old Pyramid. If you remember, I think the Pyramid now is a Bass Pro Shop, if I'm not mistaken. But the old Pyramid, that's when, and KB, you'll love these names, Calvin Sampson was still at Oklahoma. And I remember Jason Richardson was the big player at Michigan State. If you remember those things. And Indiana State beat one of those teams, and I'm trying to find it because, it was probably like 98 or something like that. I was like 13, 14, 15 years old.
For some reason, I feel like
going
they
to
beat
the tournament.
Oklahoma one of those years.
Yeah,
but I could be wrong.
I'm pretty sure it was Oklahoma, and I just remember eating a bunch of barbecue nachos in Memphis. That's all that I did. Brendan King with us here. On the Payless Liquors hotline. Where do you stand on this team being an automatic qualifier? Do you think they can drop a game and still make it as an at-large? I mean, that is now the pressure that's going to be on this team the rest of February and into March, I would imagine.
Yeah, that's a good question, and that's really the question of the month. And truthfully, I don't know. I think tonight will tell us a lot, guys, just in how you come out as a top 25 school, because as mentally strong as they are, and again, I've done enough of these games, I've watched enough of these practices. It really is a fun group to be around. They love each other, and that's cliche to say, but it really is a closely knit group. But I mean, you take a peek at the remaining schedule. It's some bottom of the barrel Missouri Valley teams. Now, I think February 28th, random Wednesday at Evansville, that kind of screams tough game to me. David Ragland does a great job down at Evansville, and that's a program that's just getting built. And, your last game, senior day against Murray State. But, the next 3 after this one, Southern Illinois, Valparaiso, UIC, I think that's pretty manageable. But again, I think tonight will tell us a lot. And, you mentioned that bracketology report, Andy. I was looking at the same exact thing. Kentucky in the first round would be wild. And then on the other side of that bracket, there's Illinois/Vermont waiting. And then Texas is in there, North Carolina. I mean, there's no easy path. I know JMV's counting his blessings because, a couple of weeks ago, Lenardi had them playing Florida Atlantic first round. That would be nightmare scenario for JMV.
Yeah, we need them to avoid Purdue. We don't need any stupid 7-10 Indiana State Butler either. Spread out the state teams. Yeah, we can. And honestly, the person that probably can't have it more than any is our guest right now. He is Brendan King. Of course, you hear them on these airwaves. And tonight he'll be on the call 7:00 from Terre Haute, Indiana State and Illinois State. Brendan, for those unfamiliar with your Butler connection, I don't know if I have the fraternity right, but are you still living in Delta Tau Delta on Butler's campus?
So I didn't expect to get roasted at 9:15 a.m., but yes, I'm currently doing this interview from a fraternity house. That's right.
Now, explain for our audience out there what your job entails, and you have to be the only human being awake in that place right now, right?
Well, probably. So I'm the house dad at my old fraternity. I have done this, Kevin. Actually, when we were doing shows together, I was just getting started doing that. So it's already been 3 years, which is crazy. I like to say I'm the only broadcaster in professional baseball that lives in a frat house, and we're going on 3 years doing it. And, no, in all seriousness, this is it sounds crazy, but it is the best gig ever. Our house here on campus, it has like its own section of the house. It's its own apartment, and I get to live in it. And it's a house of 63 fellas, and they do great stuff. I'm a very proud house dad. Can I say that?
I absolutely love it. There's no better story than the man that's calling Indiana State basketball. Also, the house dad at Butler.
I'm stunned right now.
And the dogs are on their way to the tourney.
No, Brendan, I had absolutely
no idea. Know this?
I had no idea. And so you're talking. So
everybody in town knows this by now. It's the worst kept secret in the world.
I know nothing. And so KB asked that question. I'm amazed. You're answering the question. I'm thinking about, the 19 different follow-ups I might have to this, and then Kevin goes, we can break. I'm like, break? To hell with Indiana State. This is the most important thing that I've found out since I've lived here, since August.
Kick a Keystone Light can on his way to his car here on this Tuesday morning as he heads out to Terre Haute.
I love that.
No more keg stands. I got a broadcast tomorrow.
That was my follow-up is someone ever get in trouble, you got to be the bad guy. Are you always the good guy? You got to be the bad guy occasionally.
Yeah, you gotta. I'm the cool guy. I feel like I'm the good cop because there's the guys that actually own the house that are usually the bad cop.
Gotcha. Okay.
I hope they don't not pay me this month because I said that. But yeah, I don't know. I didn't expect to answer these questions, to be honest with you. But I'd like, I graduated less than 10 years ago, so I understand what they're going through, if you know what I'm saying.
I know what you're saying. I like that.
When do you head out to Arizona for a little spring training action?
Yeah, I'm going to be out there the second week of March. It's pretty cool. The Cubs prospects are playing the White Sox prospects in this specially designed prospect game. And it's going to be nationally televised, and going to be out there for that, get to catch some of our guys playing in the game. And hopefully Mark Dykton, by that time, Cody Bellinger will be back in Cubby Blue.
Oh, please. And then add a few more. You need to add more, not just add Bellinger. You need Blake Snell or somebody. Come on now.
Well, one at a time here, my man.
Well, you signed Bellinger, and you're back to square one. You're back to where you were last season. You need to add.
We've gone everywhere with Brendan
We're
King
also
today.
putting Brendan in a bad spot. It's like, talk about the fraternity house and what happens. Hey, talk about the Cubs prospects and how they need to get more free agents.
This was the entirety of the show when I was on it, so don't worry.
The first time ranked in 45 years, he will be on the call tonight. Brendan King calling the Sycamores of Indiana State. And we are well-versed here with a little fraternity talk about his dogs as well. And, of course, the South Bend Cubs coming up here in a few weeks. BK, always enjoy the conversations, man. Love to see the continued great success. You deserve it, and I can't wait to be tuning in tonight.
Thanks, fellas. Please do not TP the house while I'm gone.
Brendan King, house dad on Butler's campus.
Good for him.
Think about that.
That's great.
A house dad of an NCAA tournament team, and he's on the call for another NCAA tournament team.
See, I don't know these things, and people are like, you didn't know that? I'm like, no, how would I ever know that? Unless you guys tell me, how would I know? I'm like the 49ers players, and you're Kyle Shanahan. Someone's got to tell me.
To be fair, Brendan King does not give off house dad fraternity vibes, does he?
Not at all. If I were to say
he's a great human,
who would be the stereotypical house dad? Perhaps RA. I know it could be stereotyping. It would not be BK. Good for him though. It's a good gig tonight too.
Does he have leather patches on his elbows? I want to know that for his frat dad suits.
He gets one new one each year. Just adds to it
for the team photo,
obviously. Brendan King right there on the Payless Stickers hotline. He was nerding out for a minute. Can I nerd out here?
Yeah, go ahead.
Okay, Indiana State is ranked 20th in the net.
Yes, yeah, they are. That's ahead of a bunch of big-time Power 5 teams.
Now, am I crazy, or did I hear the committee come out a couple years ago be like, we don't do the net. We don't pay, or am I wrong on that?
They don't only look at the net, because otherwise
people thought the net was gospel.
Otherwise you could just go down the line and say, okay, the net 1, 2, 3, 4, 1 seeds, 2 seeds, 3 seeds.
Because if you go down that line, Indiana State's a 5 seed.
Yeah, they're a 5 seed. Yeah. And we sure as hell know they're not going to be no damn 5 seed.
No,
even if they win the conference.
No, but I look at it and think, and he brought up a great point, like Robbie Avila didn't play in that Alabama game. That's one of their 3 losses. Not to say they would have won the game, but I'm like, if they go 30-3, if they run the table, aren't they a 7?
Boy, you went 8-9 last week.
I'd have to crunch numbers a little bit more on it, but they're
not going to be a 7.
They have no bad losses, right? Michigan State and Alabama away from home, and Drake away from home. Drake looks like a team that's very much right there as a top 70 team.
No, the only losses they have are quad 1 teams. Everything in the quad 2, 3, and 4, they're undefeated in. So yeah, no bad losses.
I don't see like a seed line loss like you see this often.
Sure.
If Purdue were to lose to Penn State coming up, or I'm just throwing out a team here, boom, that drops Purdue. And Purdue's a bad example because they have so many quad 1 wins, it doesn't matter here. But if you're a middle of the pack 4 or 5 seed, 1 loss could do that to you. I'm trying not to be like overly optimistic about it, But I just look at the Indiana State resume, and yes, they need a hold serve, and they've got a bunch of, freaking, craters really the rest of the way in terms of you got to avoid all. I mean, tonight would be a bad loss. You're an 18-point favorite at home, so you got to avoid it, but still.
Yeah, I mean, if you go look at their net ranking is higher than Wisconsin, Michigan State, Gonzaga, Kentucky, Texas Tech, FAU, Clemson, Virginia, Florida, Notre Dame.
Somebody wants Andy to go to the Terre Haute game. They said,
Wait,
Andy to
Tyler,
Terre
why
Dice
did you
tonight.
throw in Notre Dame?
I just threw them in.
They've got 8 wins.
I know. I just threw them in. I'll see if anyone noticed.
Am
What'd
I
you
seeing
say?
this in our YouTube chat that ESPN sent a crew here to College Game Day? Shout out to MK Sykes, a huge Indiana State fan. So
did
we
they?
could be getting that on Saturday, College Game Day segment on Indiana State.
Oh, I'm sure. Now, I believe the actual College Game Day I believe it's in Lexington.
This coming Saturday?
This coming Saturday. Yeah, I was in.
Is a fake game day is what you're saying?
Well, no, they do a segment.
They'll just do a segment within the show.
Yeah, I'm good with that. Yeah, I think it's it's Auburn, Kentucky. No, it's at Auburn. So Bruce Pearl will have no shirt on, basically.
He also wants you to go to Terre Dice. He's like, Andy should go to Terre Dice.
I'd love to go to Terre Dice.
Yeah, have him crash at Brendan's frat house afterwards.
Oh, man, boy, that's
great.
No.
Well, the frat is at Butler.
Is it Butler? Yeah.
Yeah, I know. But Brendan's got to get home. So bring Andy with him.
Do you want Andy to do the show the next morning or not?
Yeah, from the frat house.
Hey, I need a comrade.
I do believe JMV and Greg Rakestraw are heading to Terre Haute here in a few weeks, so maybe you could tag along.
See, I don't know. So Rakestraw, I mean, he's kind of cheating on you then with JMV. Are they going to have the same, drive?
Well, Rakestraw's a man of the people.
I mean,
does anyone really want to go to a Notre Dame Citadel game? Hell, they lost by 20.
You did go to
maybe Rakestraw's the bad juju.
Game.
Maybe Indiana State might lose that one.
It's
JMV
a great
should
point.
Watch out.
Which game are they going to? Do you know? You may have just said. I didn't hear you.
What? Name me the weekday opponents.
Maybe UIC. Would they go to them?
Yeah,
no, that's on a Saturday. That's on a Saturday.
Somebody different.
So everything else at home is on a Saturday. They end the season against Murray State. That's on a Saturday. So
now they do their tournament early, right? The MoVal?
They do. They do it a week early, if I'm not mistaken.
They're on that CBS Sunday the week before Selection Sunday. So we will know.
Maybe they're going to Evansville.
Yeah, I was going to say, would they be going to the Evansville game? That's a Wednesday night.
Is it in Terre Haute?
No, it's at Evansville.
Well, I can't imagine that.
You don't think they'll go all
the only other option is Valpo. I doubt they're going all the way over there.
This is horrible radio.
It is bad radio. Where are JMV and Rakestraw?
Where in the world are JMV and Rakestraw going?
Again, I am optimistic that right now we're looking at a couple tournament teams here in Indiana State and Butler, both of them in action tonight. To Brendan King, who you just heard on the call. Coming up in a few, we'll do the pop quiz, so we'll open those phone lines now. 317-239-1070. Pair of tickets June 28th to Dave Matthews Band. And as we sit here and look at this immaculate and have eaten some of this outstanding Cluster Truck food, how about a $25 gift card to Cluster Truck? Again, free delivery from Fountain Square through Carmel. The Fan is our promo code as well. So if you don't get on the line and get a gift card, the Fan with the promo code, 25% off an order of $25 or more. Okay, thank you here, MK Sykes. Yeah, he just tagged me in this tweet about the ESPN production crew at I love Indiana State's jerseys.
Oh yeah, the light blue ones.
Oh,
fantastic! No, it's a great.
Their practice jerseys are cool.
Have you said that? It's a great Panama City with the boys spring break jersey to wear.
Oh yeah,
it really is.
Yeah, the Larry Bird is a must.
It really
I love the state of Indiana's, the eye and all of that. Yeah, I can't wait to see that come tournament time. All right, let's lead off the morning checkdown with an ugly night in Charlotte.
The Morning Checkdown, brought to you by the Barbasol Horizon League Basketball Championships. March starts here at the Indiana Farmers Coliseum, March 11th and 12th.
All right, not a good one last night in Charlotte, like you said, KB. 111-102, that was your final. The Pacers lose, and they fall now to 30-25 on the season. Rick Carlisle, we need to be killers.
When you're going from a team that's a lottery team and you're working to become a playoff team, I mean, you've got to learn to be killers, and we didn't have that killer edge tonight.
No, they didn't. And again, I've been harping, 4 minutes to go, you're down 3. Go win the game. It's been a bad game, but go win the game. Now, we also saw Tyrese Halliburton's most minutes he's played since coming back from that hammy injury, 34 minutes, only 13 points, did have the 12 assists. Halliburton post-game on the team growing up.
At some point as a group, we got to grow up. I got to play better. We just got to play better top to bottom. I think we just got to mature as a group. We got to win these games. But we got one more game before All-Star break, so I want to approach it the right way.
They're bad. They were just so bad from the start. The first possession, Charlotte just whips them. 3 guys beat Pacers players off the dribble. Boom, layup, timeout by Carlisle 2 minutes later. Andy, the offense stunk. The defense, no rebounding whatsoever. The bench was terrible. Top to bottom, he's right. The starters, sure, but they really, I don't think, were the major culprit. I thought the bench was terrible. Again, Rick Carlisle said with us last hour, sounds like Benedict Mathurin dealing with not only a little bit of a physical issue, he looked beyond lethargic to me. McConnell was not anywhere near his normal self. Ugly loss for the Pacers last night. And if the playoffs started today, you'd be in the play-in.
Yep.
That's
7 seed.
How crowded things are. Let's do the math. Math on the radio is never good. 30-25 is the record, correct?
Yes, sir.
That would be 55 games. So 82 minus 55, is that 27?
It is.
27 to go.
Yeah.
We are getting in, and I bring that up like,
oh, it's go time.
This is not the first half. It's more like the 2/3. This is go time right now. So at Toronto coming up tomorrow night, 7:30 tip. Pascal Siakam returning north of the border.
It was time to, get the out of there.
Yeah, that looked like the Pacers' effort last night. Butler 3.5, or did you say it's risen to 4.5?
I saw it at 4.5. Yeah, ESPN Bet here on ESPN.com has it at 4.5. Has the over/under 153.5.
Underdog against the number. I'm surprised to see Marquette up at 4, but it's a reminder of you get past UConn and Purdue, and it's like everybody's lost. It seems like everybody loses every week besides those 2 teams. Mark, refresh my memory. Josh, correct, on the 4-pack?
Josh, yes.
Shout out to Josh. Pays to listen early in the show. We gave those away very early, a 4-pack of tickets tonight to Hinkle for Butler and Marquette. We'll give away another one coming up for Saturday's game with Creighton. Boy, this Big East gauntlet, it continues for Butler, but so far, so good. They are 3-1 on this stretch of games filled with quad 1 and quad 2 opportunities. Butler-Marquette, a rematch. Butler beat Marquette last month in Milwaukee. Since then, the Golden Eagles have won 7 straight.
Yeah, Indiana State, we already talked about them a lot with Brendan. Again, that one's 7 o'clock tonight on ESPN Plus against Illinois State. Just some other scores around college basketball last night. Top 25, Duke beat Wake Forest, which is a nice win for them, 77-69. Texas Tech all over a team, all over Kansas. Kansas may not win. I got to look it up, but in Scotty's here, he may know off the top of his head. It's been 12 years, 13 years since Bill Self has not either won straight up the Big 12 or at least a tie of the regular season Big 12, and there is a chance for them not to do it. They lost by 29 on the road last night at Texas Tech. Impressive from Texas Tech. 29. It's by 30 points on the road.
I loved Brendan King earlier.
Yeah, I liked Brendan King. I love him a lot more now that I know kind of what else he does in his life.
Are you going to visit the frat house?
I would love to visit the frat house. Yeah.
It'll be a while for this man to visit the frat house, but we do have to give a birthday shout-out here to 5-year-old Micah. His father, Brant, just sent this message in. 5-year-old Micah today listens to us every morning on his way to drop off at preschool. And look at this. He's a huge Notre Dame Irish fan.
Of course. Those get pushed to the front of the line, don't they,
Hell
Mark?
yeah. That trumps Adam Silver's presence on the show, I think, on this.
What if he was like, I'm a big USC fan. I'm trying to think who you might hate.
No, I think
being a Notre Dame
Mark
fan.
was friendly, played the Notre Dame fight song for Micah. It sounds like Mark is withholding.
Happy birthday, Micah.
From that.
Good for you.
Happy birthday to
5
Micah.
years old.
I'd replay the Bush push right now if I could.
Or that. Is that necessarily? Lou Holtz, Ryan Day audio.
Oh, man.
Do we need that as well? Shout out to Joe Haig, former Colts offensive lineman. He announced his retirement yesterday. Started nearly 40 games in his time with the Colts. Won a Super Bowl with Tampa after his stop here in Indy. All right, it's time for the pop quiz. And again, giveaways abound here. A pair of tickets to Dave Matthews Band coming up in late June and Cluster Truck gift card, $25. 317-239-1070.
The Pacers are breaking all the rules. Can you handle the pressure? Sharpen your pencils. It's time for the Pop Quiz with KB and Andy. Brought to you by Jiffy Lube, Indiana's favorite oil change since 1985.
All right, boy, giveaways abound here. Reminder, if you get 5 out of 5, which I haven't looked at question number 5, how bad is it? Okay, it doesn't look too bad. It's okay. It's okay. Scotty's shrugging. That means it's not
It's
very
not
easy.
1890s.
We did see a lot of Jerry
Badman
Rice the
invented?
other night.
It was 1806, I think, yesterday. This day in 1806. By the way, Scotty, you know what today is? The 30th anniversary. I don't think it's on here. It's the 30th anniversary of John Chaney going after John Calipari and saying he's going to kill him.
Oh, my God. That's 30 years ago?
It was 30 years ago. That came across the timeline, which
we'd
is
have to
fantastic.
find that audio and play it.
We need one of those again.
Oh, I'd love it. Especially if anyone went after Calipari. That'd just be funny anyway. So
This seems a bit doable.
Okay. So if you get 5 out of 5,
really doable.
you get the Jiffy Lube oil change. Regardless, whoever gets picked here, you're going to get a $25 gift card to Cluster Truck. You can download their app or go to clustertruck.com. And right now, for anyone who doesn't win, type in the fan. You get 25% off your next order of $25 or more. So that's a great deal. And we have 2 tickets, right, to Dave Matthews Band, which is coming up at Ruoff in June. So we ready to go?
Let's do it. Number 1 through 8 for the pop quiz. Boy, I've got nothing here. Let's just reward fast fingers on this Tuesday morning.
Okay, Leonard.
Leonard, good morning, man. How are you?
Leonard, you around?
Okay.
Oh, boy.
I don't know many Leonards. You want to move to number 2,
Yeah,
Mark?
let's just go to number 2.
Okay, Shane.
Hey, Shane.
Yes, gentlemen, how are you today?
You're not the coach, are you?
I am not.
Okay. Shane, how you doing?
I'm doing wonderful. How are you guys today?
We're great. Dave Matthews, Cluster Truck, wanted to test your brain, all the above. What had you dialing us up?
Just wanting to test the brain. I haven't been on for a while.
Do you think we believe him?
I don't know. I would take the tickets and the gift card. By the way, who's the coach when you? Oh, Shane Steichen. Okay, gotcha.
Oh,
I thought it was. Well,
gosh.
I mean, I thought, okay, which is this like?
Is your
KB's,
brain struggling?
I'm
here on
like, is this
gas
K?
have you up? Little gas have you up late last night?
He did a little bit. I'm like, is this KB's golf coach in 8th grade? Who is this?
That
okay,
was Kristen Airy, my basketball
well,
coach,
there you
dropping
go.
Swifty last night on the telecast.
Well, Shane, let's go. You got the 2 tickets. You got the Cluster Truck. Let's get the oil change. All right, so let's go.
Yes, sir.
All right. Question number 1. The Pacers lost in Charlotte last night, 111-102. Who was the game's leading scorer? Was it Grant Williams?
Miles Turner.
There you go.
Whoa.
Okay.
Shane, he is Shane Steichen.
Yeah.
Smart. Shane Steichen in the building Saturday night in Mackey for
Let's
Purdue.
talk ball.
I saw
He
that.
just wants to talk ball. All ball right here. Shane Super Bowl 58 is now history or I guess is now in the history books. Where will Super Bowl 59 be played?
New Orleans.
You don't even need to give this dude the answers. Shane, where you go to high school?
Oh, man.
South Dearborn.
Okay, you valedictorian of South Dearborn?
No, not even close.
What's our nickname for South Dearborn?
The Knight.
Knights.
Ah, the Knights.
All right.
Okay. All right, Wembanyama, Spurs rookie, Victor, we love him, recorded his second triple-double last night. Wemby had 27 points, 14 rebounds, 10 block shots in the Spurs win in Toronto. Who was the last NBA player to record a triple-double with at least 10 blocks? Was it Clint Capella, Miles Turner, Shaquille O'Neal, Josh Smith?
Josh Smith.
Shane, you know a dude from that region, Ashton Craig, is probably going to be Notre Dame's starting center next year. You might not care one bit about that.
I do not. 'Cause I live in Greensburg now.
Well,
So not much connection back to that area.
Shane, thanks for really making me feel good here on this Tuesday morning. Happy 77th birthday to the winningest coach. Not only Micah, happy 5th to Micah, but happy 77 to Coach K. Mike Krzyzewski, 77. He spent the 74-75 season as an assistant coach to Bob Knight at IU before landing his first college head coaching job. Where did Coach K begin his career as a head coach?
Army.
Yeah, that's easy.
I
I knew he was going to get that one.
yeah.
Wow, for being number 4, Scotty, I'm
Scotty,
surprised.
that's a little soft by
surprised by
Scotty
that
today.
one. All right, IUPUI heads north tomorrow to face the Detroit Mercy Titans.
Fighting Mike Davis, right?
UDM is 0-26. Oh my God, and is one of 2 NCAA D1 men's college basketball teams still looking for its first victory of the season. Name the only other winless team in men's D1 basketball. Is it Buffalo, Coppin State, Mississippi Valley State, Stonehill College? Wow.
Ooh. Let's just go with Stonehill.
So how close is Milan to South Dearborn?
That's probably the closest school. I grew up closer to Milan than where my high school was. Yeah, about 3 miles from Milan.
Gotcha. Who's the greatest athlete in South Dearborn high school history?
Probably Eric Sherman. He went on to play at Vincennes. I think won a national title at Vincennes, and then Coastal Carolina and played in the NCAA tournament.
Man, Vincennes has had a hell of a run in producing. You know, Sean Marion was a Vincennes product.
Who's the Notre Dame big you stumped him with? What was that gentleman's name?
Craig, yeah,
okay.
center on the football team there, and I believe Shane's exact phrase was, "I don't care." If I remember.
I would be excited for him going to Notre Dame.
Oh, okay.
I'm a huge Notre Dame football fan.
Well, no more hints anymore, Shane, so you don't have to butter me up.
The 5-year-old that texted you, they love Notre Dame.
I thought it was the center on the basketball team. Until right now, it's the center on the football team.
I think I mentioned it to Marcus Freeman, but then I remembered I couldn't ask him football questions, so I had to withhold that. Okay, Miles Turner, correct. Boy, he was all over that. Yes! Caesars Superdome. I didn't even know Caesars was a sponsor of the Superdome. And then,
the last
Scotty,
couple
we go
years.
back out west. I feel like we've been out west for the Super Bowl. Did I see this? Are we L.A. and Santa Clara the next 2 years?
Gosh. I believe so, yeah. It's beautiful. Well, you know, the NFL's there in L.A. They have a couple teams, you know. It's fantastic. Caesars Superdome. That'd be a lot of fun. Yeah, it's been Caesars for what, Scotty? Maybe 3 years, something like that. It's been a couple years. Yeah, Mercedes-Benz. Yeah, if you remember.
Army was right for Coach K. That was easy. That was a layup.
The only ones he missed, Clint Capella, back in 2021, had 13, 19, and 10 blocks. Wemby did that last night, 27-14, and had the 10 block shots. Obviously, one of the more difficult ways to get a triple-double.
Should we be nervous about the Jags giving Detroit their first win?
I think you were talking about Trevor Lawrence. You know, I was going to say, no, I'm not worried about Jacksonville at all, actually. No, I don't think so. I don't know.
I got to look this up. So you're telling me Mike Davis is bunt. So his kid is no longer there. Is that right?
He's gone. 0-26.
So IUPUI is 6-20, all right?
Okay.
Detroit is 0-26.
Okay.
I scroll through this schedule here. They played earlier this year. IUPUI won by 12. Was that the game where the dude walked on the floor? You remember that?
I remember.
And Matt Crenshaw handled it just beautifully.
I remember asking Rakestraw about it, and Greg didn't think it was as funny as I did. That's all I remember.
So they lost by 3 at Robert Morris. If I'm looking through the schedule, that looks to be the closest I'm seeing. Youngstown State beat them by 41 on Detroit's home floor. Not much of a hostile environment.
And I asked this not to be mean.
Ball State only lost by, or only beat them by 3.
Is anyone at these games?
Wait a minute.
They have an 80% chance to win.
Ole Miss is good at basketball this year, correct?
Ole
Chris
Miss
Beard has done a nice job.
Yeah, they're very good at basketball. They're a tournament team for sure.
The closest game that Detroit has had all season is a 70-69 loss at Ole Miss.
I can't believe it. Yeah, I'm looking at it. I just can't believe it.
Boy, I'm nervous for IUPUI tomorrow night.
I say we lead with this. If they lose, we got to lead with it, right?
Unbelievable. Thank you to Shane. That's a $25 gift card to Cluster Truck. Man. That is a pair of tickets to Dave Matthews Band. We'll close it out. We have not only a favorite for the Super Bowl next year, where do the Colts fall in line, we also have a favorite for the halftime act. We'll share that on the other side.
I'm what you might call
Purdue, they'd play the winner of the play-in as the number 1 overall seed here. Southern and Eastern Kentucky. I think Eastern Kentucky's got some Indianapolis.
Oh, I'm sure they do.
I actually think Purdue played them maybe earlier this year.
It's not too far down the road. Now, you said as a tease,
yes,
who is lined up to be the Super Bowl champion next year? And I think something that I care probably more about, and I have not seen this, who's the favorite to be the halftime act next season in the Super Bowl?
We have 3 acts for the halftime Super Bowl at plus 450 or better.
Okay.
Bieber at plus 700.
What?
Miley Cyrus at plus 2,200.
Okay.
So they are distant, underdogs, I guess. They are the Southerns and the Eastern Kentuckys of the world. Our 3 at plus 450 or better. We will start with the man that probably will be at the Final Four, front row, wearing whoever's gear happens to be there. That would be Drake. Mm-hmm. He might be in the building tomorrow night to welcome Pascal Siakam back.
Okay.
And I take her off the books. I don't think she's allowed to do it until her husband retires at plus 400. Yeah, I assume they'll get married. Plus 400 for Taylor Swift.
Okay.
Yeah, I think those are too high of odds for her, right?
Yeah, I don't see Taylor Swift doing it at all, to be quite honest.
Even if they break up in the next 6 months, that's too close to the game.
Then she's going to be spurned.
Well,
she's not going to want to.
I mean, that would be
then
the
she
thing.
writes a song about him and then performs it at halftime of the game.
Oh, see, now you're thinking the way I'm thinking. That the only way I want to see Taylor Swift is if they break up the Chiefs in the Super Bowl. They make it every year, so the Chiefs will be back in the Super Bowl next year in New Orleans, and she's performing.
Kelsey tells Andy Reid he's not going in for halftime. He's staying out there to watch her.
Like the kicker. What was it? McPherson for the Bengals who did that a couple years ago.
I see one of the favorites being the guy I brought us back with, Post Malone. I feel like he would be a good.
Oh, really? That was not the list I saw. We have one favorite left here.
This is just personal.
You're in New Orleans. You got to go a little Wayne Juvenile, don't you? I mean, come on. What are we doing?
Plus 260, Lil Wayne.
Yeah.
Boy, there'd just be so many beeps and bleeps.
You couldn't.
You can't do those songs clean or relatively close to clean. You just can't do it. I mean, it's just not going to translate. Now, I did see this.
Well, can't he just turn the mic to the side, everybody else say the word, and then he just keeps on going?
The fake fans that run out on the field.
You're asking a lot from Lil Wayne, who might be in an altered state, who will be in a heavily altered state. I did see this. Now, Usher doesn't get paid, obviously, to do the Super Bowl, but you get the uptick. His Spotify streams since the Super Bowl halftime performance, KB, up 550%.
Oh, we dialed them up all day Sunday.
Oh, there you go. His concert, so you fed into this.
Yeah, 100%.
His concert ticket prices are up 40%. His Tick Pick, okay, which I guess is a ticket broker site.
What?
Careful there.
Tick Pick says 38% of the total tickets they've sold for Usher's upcoming tour came after the Super Bowl performance. That's a staggering number.
Makes sense to do it, right?
I mean, that's why he does it.
Super Bowl 59 odds. Where are the Colts? 1-32. Where do you have them?
15.
The odds are
15.
15, says
15.
Andy Sweeney.
I'll say tied for 12th.
Tied for 12th, Mark Dykton. Tied with Mark Dykton's Bears.
Ooh.
Are the Colts. 18th.
Ooh.
40-1. I looked at the list. The one team that I was like, really? Above them? I think this has more to do with the division than anything. The Falcons were above the Colts. And I mean, I know the Falcons beat the Colts, but
where are the
is
Texans?
That just all NFC South? The Texans were above the Colts as well.
Well, no, but where are the Texans? How high up are they on that list?
14 or 15.
Yeah, I'm surprised. I'm surprised they're not a little bit higher. Chris Canty on their morning show on ESPN, he gave his top 5. They tweeted out he has to win the Super Bowl next year. He has Chiefs, Ravens, Lions, Bengals, and Texans.
Are the Jaguars above them?
Jacksonville will be ahead of Indy. The thing that is just scary about all these odds, it's just the number of AFC teams.
Sure.
That are up there. If you're the Colts, good God, I know it goes back and forth, and other years the NFC is the beast, but I mean, there's just a ton of AFC teams. We did it this year where big-time quarterbacks were not going to make the postseason. Several didn't make the postseason.
Chiefs 5-1, 49ers 6-1, Lions 7-1. So a lot of Dan Campbell support here in the offseason. All right, thank you to Rick Carlisle. Thank you to Brendan King and Indiana State at 7. Butler 6:30. Pacers final game before the All-Star break tomorrow. Adrian Wojnarowski going to join us tomorrow. He's got a fun event with Tyrese Halliburton coming up. He'll promo that. Everybody have a great Tuesday.
They didn't bother to rebuild.
This one of the most